And first thing I would like to do is acknowledge the land upon which we gather as the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and we pay our respects to the Indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. The second item on our agenda tonight is a declaration of conflict of interest. If any councillor or staff member has a conflict of interest in any of the items we're going to cover tonight, please declare so now. Okay, next item is approval of the agenda, and I'd like to ask if everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda, if there's any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda that anyone would like to suggest. If not, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Next item is our minutes of the regular council meeting, September 14th, 2022. Any additions, deletions, or changes to those minutes that anyone would like to suggest?
I'll move them as presented in the package.
Okay, seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Any business arising from the minutes that we're not going to cover in the agenda tonight? Jeremy, anything in there that won't be covered tonight? Okay. Anything from those minutes that you want to follow up on tonight? Okay. Do we have any presentations from the floor, Jeremy?
Not that I'm aware of,
no. No? Okay. All right. Next item is my report. Just before I start my report, I would like to welcome Constable Matt Muirhead of the Rcmp to our meeting. Thank you for attending, Constable, and look forward to, I understand you're new here from Nova Scotia, so thank you for coming here and welcome. Thanks. New Brunswick. Oh, you're from New Brunswick. I'm sorry. I heard Nova Scotia. Sorry about that. So my report is in your package. I'll just go over a couple of highlights. First thing I'd like to do is offer my sincere condolences to the family of C.C. Elward, the wife of James Elward and mother of Connor. Our MLA, James is our MLA, and she was a lovely woman and really sad loss. I'd also like to extend condolences to the family of Don Livingston, especially to our staff member Carter Livingston. Deepest condolences to both James and Carter. Okay, I guess some of the highlights are that the Fiona was a really difficult period, and regular town business was set aside for a couple of weeks while we did what we could to help residents. A big thank you to all the councillors, staff, and all the volunteers who served residents at the town centre, which opened the afternoon of, I guess it was still storming in the morning. We opened at 3 o'clock. And we're open till, I believe, 9, was it, Jeremy? Yeah, and then every day thereafter. And I believe we're still providing a spot for people if they're, if it's needed, eh?
We still have our facility open here now on regular hours, and what I indicated to Municipal Affairs today was that people can still come in, use the showers, use their facilities to charge their phones, but our numbers are so low now that we're returned to completely normal operations. We're not classified as a reception center that's fully open, but it is available to the residents. But we are on standby in case they do need us, so that's what we're put on. We're put on the standby list now as of today.
Okay, great, great. No, I think it was a great thing that everyone did to provide shelter, coffee, food, and shower facilities. There was a lot of community people that No Frills donated hundreds, thousands of dollars worth of groceries to people, just gave it away. There was a lot of generosity on the part of many members of our community, and it was something that really renews faith in the human spirit, because it was really good to see people come together to help others. So we will be doing a postmortem. We will be looking at what we can do better next time and lessons learned and that sort of thing, just from the town's perspective. And we'll be discussing that at a future committee of the whole, and maybe we'll have a special meeting to discuss whatever the findings are. The other highlight is that we had the honor of attending a provincial memorial service for Queen Elizabeth II. Had a great opportunity to speak with, after the ceremony, with provincial leaders and the Premier and others about some Stratford issues. So that was a great opportunity to meet with those people. And we did have a special meeting of the Committee of the Whole Council to discuss future plans for the switch program. That's my report. Anyone have any questions or comments on my report?
Your Worship, the fourth point on your report regards to the Hindu celebration, that took place in the soccer?
In the soccer complex, that's right, yeah.
And they were kind of touch and go there for a while with regards to power, or everything went ahead?
Yeah, the power was connected in time for their ceremony, yes, yeah, for their celebration, yeah.
Okay.
I believe there was around 300 or 400 people from all over the island that attended that.
Your Worship, is there any more information, I don't know if we're at liberty to say, with the switch program now? I know with everything going on there, I know that there's movement there, so we're probably going to make some announcements in the near future.
Yeah, I think maybe you would like to comment on that, Jeremy. I know we're pretty close to being able to make an announcement. Go ahead, Jeremy.
We've had discussions with regard to the program, and we do feel there is some extra dollars coming, but that hasn't been officially given to us yet, and the contract hasn't come through. But once we do, we'll get the word out to the residents, and we do have a plan for how we can continue that program on.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, you may as well stay up, Jeremy. I'm going to ask for the Chief Administrative Officer's report. That's item 8 on the agenda, so go ahead, Jeremy.
Thank you, Worship. Report is in your package for Mayor and Council. First part of the month was regular. You know, things were pretty regular, but coming on the end, it got a little bit, a different change of pace for us, but spent some time interviewing for the project manager position. We looked at our view work system and whether or not we're going to continue on and how we implement that further in the future for complaint tracking. And we also looked at the switch program. We had our monthly department head meetings as usual, where we discuss town projects and activities. We met with one of the bus companies that may be tendering on our electric buses. Very interesting stuff that they're bringing to the table as far as the type of buses that may be available and how they run, so that was interesting. But I would like to touch on Hurricane Fiona a little bit and, how we opened up our reception center. I requested that staff that were available and able to come in that morning, even though the provincial government offices were closed. Everybody showed up and ready to work. And they were all working in different capacities, helping residents and getting the reception center ready, serving the public, but also out helping, our outdoor workers get the trails opened up and some of the streets opened up and, clean up around different areas. So got to commend staff for doing that, and big thank you to them. Also, the Stratford and Area Watershed Group, they were here helping us out on a regular basis. We had many volunteers. Council were here. Thank you for your help. And it was a real effort. There are times during the storm we were serving between 1,500 to 2,000 residents a day. We had about 5,500 residents served over the entire time. And as you indicated, we had food donated by Mike and Andreas. No frills, around $25,000 to $30,000 worth of food. A lot of team efforts here to really keep things going, and I think the residents of Stratford really appreciated it. And in closing, I'd really like to give a big thank you to our utility crews. They were out pretty well 24/7, making sure that the pumping stations stayed going, and that we didn't have sewage backing up into people's basements. There were a few that had some minor backups, but for all in all, those guys are troopers. They were out, like I say, day and night, taking the tow-behind generators and the pumper trucks around to make sure that the systems were still pumped down. Even though the power is out, we still have backup generators to our water system, so water is still available to all the residents, but that water has to go somewhere, and not all of our 29 pumping stations have backup power on them, so as the flows start to come, you have to make sure that you can pump them down, so big thank you to them. Willing to ask or answer any questions?
Just regarding that, Jeremy, would the ideal be to have backup power at all these pump stations? Or like, is that even a reasonable ask?
It's probably something we don't need at every station. Would that be the best? Yes.
Yeah.
But there are some major stations, and I was talking about this with Director of Infrastructure, Jeannie, today, that, you know, there probably will be some funding that's coming forward here in the near future.
Yeah.
There are some larger strategic stations that need to have backup power permanently, like Pondside has backup power on a permanent basis. But there's some other larger stations that if we did have backup power, it would relieve the stress on our workers quite a bit. They'd still have to be going around with the tow-behind generators, but I don't know if it's feasible to put a generator on every station,
Okay.
seeing as we have 29 of them, but some larger strategic ones, definitely. We want to look at that in the future. We do have another tow-behind generator that we're acquiring here soon, and we had one that's in our current fleet, but we also had one rented for another purpose, and we kept it during the storm, which was pretty unbelievable to have that available to us. So definitely, I think with maybe you know, another 1 or 2 tow-behind generators and then some permanent ones at some of the larger stations would be in much better shape.
Yeah.
But I have to say, they pulled off a miracle to keep things going the way they did. So,
Interesting, thanks.
yeah. Any other questions?
Any other comments or questions? No, I also want to compliment everyone that worked really well. It worked
I'm sure I'm
quite
missing
well, as
someone,
well as
but
could be expected. I mean, the power went out most places around midnight, and this place was open at 3 in the same afternoon, and there was a lot of really good effort by a lot of people, and it was really nice to see the children of some of our staff in doing a lot of work. I know Wendy's young ones were both working hard for us, and you know, Stephanie's, and there was quite a few people. Jill had her young fella in doing some work, and it was great to see. So it was great to see the community, the staff, and council, everyone come together to help our residents at a time of crisis.
yeah, and most residents were very appreciative, and you know, they were. I've never seen so many power bars that were in here charging up phones. They were all over the place. So our system works good, even though it was on backup generation for days. And you know, our fuel deliveries were on time. Got a little low at one point, but Joe was able to source out more fuel, so it worked the way it was supposed to. So that's good. Thank you.
Anything we needed, we asked for it. You know, it was asked for, it was provided. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, good coordination with the provincial EMO on a daily basis to make sure that they had information on what our status was and what their status was, and they did reach out to us on a few occasions on whether we needed certain items, and fuel was one of them, and they did assist us and got us some extra fuel. So, you know, the fuel situation was only an issue for a couple of days, but when you're trying to run all these operations and make sure your crews are going around to pump down these stations, the vehicles do need fuel. So.
And I think, and we'll probably get into it more in the next report from Safety Services, but I'm sure the first responders, the Rcmp and Island EMS and the fire department, they were all on standby, and I understand there were some people that actually spent the night at the fire hall the night of the hurricane and for several nights thereafter to provide service in the case of emergency.
I certainly don't want to steal their thunder, but I know that the calls were very busy, and they had to go out during conditions that none of the rest of us have to endure, so hats off to them too, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Jeremy, just one question,
Yeah.
just before you let him go, Mayor. So we're deemed a reception center, right? So there's a lot of talk about the priority list. So because we're a reception center, we would be technically on that priority list fairly high.
For
but
fuel and such, or?
for power. For restoring power? Or how does that work? Because we didn't have power until, I think it was like a week later, right, at the reception center. We were running on generator for a week,
Correct.
right? Yeah. I don't know how that works.
I don't know how their prioritization goes, and I don't know if maybe some of it comes into play that we do have secondary backup generation.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
these generators are designed to run extensively. I don't know if that, but I know that there were some pretty extensive damage on Shakespeare that needed to be repaired before we could get re-energized. And I know the school board was trying to get re-energized as quickly as possible, so.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how the priority list goes, and, you know, we got a lot of calls from residents indicating, you must have a special number you can call and get us reconnected. We don't.
And I think that is a key message, because I got a lot of emails and calls on that as well, yeah.
We have to call the same folks they do
Yeah.
and report the outages and then
Yeah.
keep reporting it as we go along. But thankfully, the generator's here, and the generator at the emergency service building worked flawlessly. And that's why we do all the testing and back up and change all the fluids and all that stuff throughout the year to make sure that they run properly for these type of events.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to item number 9, Safety Services Report. I'll ask the chair of that portfolio committee to give his report. Councillor Derek Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I start my reports, I have a statement here in regards to Fiona 2022. Before I start my reports tonight, I thought I'd give a brief report on Fiona storm would be in order for the people of Stratford. Observations. The town emergency plan was put in place and seemed to have worked well. That a review will take place to see if any improvements should be added to the plan. Town staff and council. The town staff worked very hard and well as a team to keep the town on a solid footing during and after the storm for a number of days. I believe this was due to the dedication of the staff, the direction of the managers, and the leadership of our CAO. For this, you have my many thanks for a job well done. The town council also worked well together. This is due in large part to the direction given to us through our CAO. Thank you for that. Businesses. I will note the Stratford businesses performed well in providing the needs to the people of Stratford. I would like to point out 2 businesses that were a driving force in this. Stratford Petrocan is one of these. This business had a power source for their gas pumps so gasoline could be obtained for the running of generators and vehicles. Petrocan employees also ensured that the obtaining of gas was done in an orderly fashion. Mike and Audrey's No Frills is a second one. This business had the foresight to provide free of charge a number of foodstuffs to the town hall so food could be given to the large number of people that came to the town hall for services. Thank you. Service clubs. There are quite a few service clubs that gave us support to all of PEI. I would like to point out one organization, the Lions Clubs of PEI, and especially the Stratford Lions Club, who, upon hearing the need for food, stepped forward with a large number of pies. Well done, Lions, well done, and thank you. Emergency services, our own emergency services. I would like to thank the Rcmp, Transit, and Humane Society for their ongoing help during this time. Fire Department. Once again, we knew the storm was going to hit PEI. The Crossroads Fire Department put an action plan in place. They had the department ready to go before the storm impacted us. This meant that the station was staffed with its members before, during, and after the storm for a lengthy period of time. This means that its members left their own homes and families to help the town. For this, I salute you and thank you. Volunteers. Last but not at least, I strongly feel that one major reason for our town doing well through all this was because of its citizens. There are many people to thank individually, but here are some. To the children of the town staff who helped out. The outstanding service of the Stratford Youth Club. This group, under the direction of Dwayne Pino, answered the call and came and helped at the Town Hall Emergency Center. They were here every day and carried out a large amount of duties with a smile on their faces. They also brought along some of their friends and families to help. When we had too many helpers for the job necessary, these youths went out into their own neighborhoods and helped with things like cleaning up yards, just making friendly conversation, and maybe giving a hug. To the neighbors, helping neighbors, cleaning trees, providing food, and helping whatever way they could for each other. And I thank them for their services. My observation on all of this is that after the aftermath of our worst hurricane, the town of Stratford is ready for future growth, not because of its location or services, but because of the people who live here and their strong loyalty to our town. To all, please accept my admiration for all the time of hardship, and I thank everybody. Okay, that's it for that. We will move on to Safety Services meeting of 20th of September. These minutes were probably gone over in the last council meeting of, or maybe not. No, it would not have been. The minutes are there for your reading and enjoyment. The only thing I would like to point out is the application drive the fire department put on. They put on a call for further people to join the fire department. They had 29 applications for basically 4 or 5 positions. That is outstanding. That many people stepping forward interested in becoming firemen with our fire department. So that's the one highlight of that report, unless we have any questions.
Constable Smith, I have a question there. I was just reading the minutes there, and I noticed you had a discussion on false alarms. And
Yes.
And the cost, and it's alarming to hear 40 false alarms. It's roughly $1,200 for every 140, so you're looking at like $48,000 to $50,000 when you look at the fuel. Do you have any plan in place to look at that, do a study, see what other departments, Maritimes or Atlantic Canada or whatever are doing, if anything?
I have requested that the fire board, with their new part-time employee, start looking into false alarms. Now, if there's a false alarm at a house and we answer the call, okay. But if there's 3 false alarms at the same house, that should be looked at, because that is mean that every time we have to go out. Another area is pole fires for Maritime Electric. Maritime Electric sometimes calls our fire department. They have an alarm, and they send our crews out to see if it is indeed there is a pole fire. That is a service to a company that is not here in Stratford. So that might have to be looked at. So there are different sources of income we have to start looking at. So, and false alarms is one of them.
And we should have policy in place for whatever it might be, 3 fires, you get fined or whatever, but I think it really should be looked at, come up with a solution, because that's a lot of money.
Fines for individual homeowners, but sometimes the company who installs the alarm doesn't reservice the problem, and we might be able to look at the company and saying, okay, this is the 4th time a faulty alarm in this house. You're not fixing it, so we might look at them.
Yeah, I just think it just should be looked at and come up with a solution, policy or whatever. Thank you.
We were discussing alarms at this time when the storm was on?
Oh, I would imagine there's a large amount of alarms.
Yeah,
but that would be because of the storm.
Had no
Yeah.
power,
That's
no
that's
alarms.
explainable.
We're discussing other alarms that
Yeah.
take place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Any more questions on the minutes?
Nope.
Okay, haven't heard none. Well, obviously, the streetlight report. There's too many poles to be mentioned now. I imagine the street lights down everywhere, but they're being worked on, and we'll get them replaced as thing. Okay, Rcmp report. This is where Constable Muirhead comes up to the stand for us. And if they ask a tough question, I look at you. Okay, Constable Matt Muirhead. Do you just want to introduce yourself there, Matt, and give us a little brief resume on yourself?
Yes, sure. My name is Matthew Muirhead. I'm a constable with the Stratford Rcmp here in Prince Edward Island. I've been here now with my family since just the beginning of COVID, so I guess that's 2020. I was an Rcmp officer in New Brunswick before that for 6 years. We're originally from Montreal, and we've made our home here now.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, the information is in your packages. There were 13 motor vehicle collisions in and around the Stratford area, and they all seem to be isolated to the one Trans-Canada Highway, the new construction area. So obviously the Rcmp are keeping a close eye on that. However, that seems to be a problem area, and it could be because of construction. 3-impair operation for check stops. Number of tickets for the month is 44. And of course, the last week, you probably wouldn't have got too much work done on that area. 4 warning tickets were handed out for the month. Basically, all the calls were of the nature that is related to police work. We had 80 NSE checks done for the month, 24 false alarms in September, as Councillor Deputy Mayor Clow reported. 10 well-being checks in September. Were a lot of those because of the hurricane, people worrying about their parents or sons, daughters?
We did do quite a few well-being checks for people off island that they couldn't get a hold of people here. Phones were down, but they didn't understand that, so,
No.
yeah.
Okay. All right then. And the numbers are pretty normal for the month. Is there anything that you want to report in regards to the storm? And again, thank you for leaving your family homes and your families behind and getting out there and helping us and enjoying this stuff, but that's appreciated. Anything you want to mention about the storm?
I worked the storm. I sent my family off to Cornwall to my parents' house because we moved to Johnson's River this year, and we knew if power went down, there'd be no water.
Yeah.
And with boys in my house, we didn't need that. So I stayed there with my dog for the storm night because I had to work that morning. And once that started going and the trees came down out there, fire hall tried to get to me. They couldn't even make it towards me. So I waited till about, I think, 11:30, and it was just great to see people from the community out cutting trees, just so people can get around. I asked one, well, why are you doing this? He goes, got nothing else to do. I said, well, thank you. And then, I had to get into work, so I drove about 2.5 hours around finding a way to get in there. And it was just great to see. I patrolled all the areas during the storm. It was just great to see, like you mentioned, people working together, people out there cleaning up debris, cutting trees, and just all coming together as a community. I thought it was really awesome. This was my first hurricane ever, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And your detachment worked well? You had power in your detachment, so everything was there for you?
The detachment was awesome. I actually spent quite a bit of time there after shift, just because of the showers and everything like that, because we didn't get power till last Friday. Everything worked like a charm.
Okay.
So it was really great to see.
Well, that's good to hear then. And no damages to your vehicles or anything like that?
No damage.
Everybody's okay is what I'm saying.
And everyone was good.
All right, thank you. Questions for the Rcmp? Okay, haven't heard none. Thank you.
Thank you.
D, Humane Society report. I would imagine, I never talked to Humane Society, but I don't know how many dogs or animals ran off because of the thunder and lightning and whatever we had here. But there seems nothing to report there for them. Transit report under E. Obviously, they had 206 riders per day in September, but that's not counting the hurricane. And again, when I'm driving around Charlottetown and Stratford, no matter what time of day, there are people at those bus stops waiting for the buses to come. So they're being used. Like, there are people on those buses, and they're using them quite frequently now. So that's good to see, all right? It's good to see those numbers. Questions on transit? Okay. And we'll go to the fire report at last. Needless to say, I gave my report on the firemen, and they're out there during the storm and helping us out. Lots of stories, I'm sure, roofs and false alarms and trees and cables and stuff like that. Kevin, is there anything that you would like to, outstanding, that any of your firemen took place in? I imagine there was a lot of difficult stuff.
There's a few notes in the report there. There was a storm duty crew on. As you stated, there was 12 members stayed at the department for approximately 24 hours before they started to safely be able to make their way home and be able to respond to additional calls that came. There was a number of calls that came over the period of time. Seven during the actual storm. We're up to over 50 now since the storm occurred, with only 2 or 3 that would be not related to storm damage. Just like to again say thank you to well, to the town, the emergency services building. This was a great example of why these buildings are designed for post-disaster type situations, because we were able to be in that building, full power, all services available to the members that were there during the storm. It's a fabulous facility, and it just really highlights the importance of a facility like that during an event like this. So we had full backup power to the entire building, EMS, Rcmp, and to the fire hall itself. Over the number of days after the event, there was a lot of members that didn't have, they either had damage to their homes or they had no power. So we had, as it became safe, and while we weren't out on calls, a number of our members went around to other members' houses and helped with roof repairs and removing trees. And we even had some people that had extended power outages that they were bringing their families into the emergency service center just to have a hot shower and prepare a meal. And it kind of started that one of the members started preparing a meal each evening, and this went on for 3 evenings in a row. So anybody, if they wanted to bring their family and their kids in, it was just, people didn't have access to, a lot of people had small generators and stuff like that, you know, would run their fridge and stuff, but it was a really, really great thing to see everybody come together. And then as some people started to receive power, there was a lot of sharing of generators. We had a fellow firefighter that used to be a volunteer with us, drove from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and brought 10 generators over with him to some of us that didn't actually have them, because we never thought we needed them until now. So it was great. It was good to see the community come together, and there was a lot of support for. You had said the Lions Club, they brought pies to the fire hall and had them there for the members and their families and whatnot. So all in all, it was a big storm, but I think things went really, really well.
In regards to the use of generators, did you see any examples where we should be teaching a course people about how to use a generator? I'm hearing stories about people putting them in their garages and starting them up and stuff like that.
We didn't have any incidents this time that were related to. We had a number of carbon monoxide calls. Some of them were false alarms. We had one in particular that we had actual readings in the house, and there was an issue with it was a permanent mounted generator outside, and it was an issue with the screening on it, and it got into the intake of the house. And but we had the members all checked out by EMS and the residents, and there didn't seem to be. I think there was a lot of press around the use of generators. The fire marshal's office was really making sure that people understood. Whether everybody was adhering to all of the safety rules or not, I don't know. People are scared to put their generators out in the rain and stuff like that, and we had lots of rain after it, so they will sometimes try and shelter them somewhere, but have them away from the house, away from any combustible materials is the biggest issue.
And you probably have a debriefing with your department now after the hurricane set down, what went right, what went wrong, and stuff like that?
Yep, we've had that already, yes.
Did you? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, open the floor to questions. Okay. Well, having said that, that's my report.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, we will, I think that's on. We'll now move on to recreation, culture, and events. I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Steve Gallant, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. To start there with Hurricane Fiona, I would like to thank everyone that has contributed to community cleanup in the aftermath of Hurricane Fiona that significantly damaged homes, business facilities, parks, trails, and shorelines. It was heartwarming to see residents working together with neighbors and restore properties that sustained damage from fallen trees and so on. So if you ever want to build a team-building event with neighbors and everybody around the table, just have a hurricane, because it was just so heartwarming. I know Jeremy and his team and staff and so on, and recognized right off the go. There's no delays. Every hour is very important. So it was great to see them start up right away and open the warming center, and especially with the generator in this building, and facilitate all the facility with the generator, and helping our Stratford residents. And it's good to have the plan in place with EMO and so on. It was it was really terrific to see, and especially what Derek talked about, the youth. Everybody contributed and everything else. Everybody was helping out, and all the streets. I mean, neighbors got to know neighbors and so on. It was nice. Everybody helped. Everybody was nice. I mean, we had warm weather after it, and that was pretty good. After we still have warm weather till this weekend, but it was great to see that. But it just showed how the town of Stratford just stepped up, and it was very fantastic to see. I walked in here a couple times, and it was just terrific. Everybody was helping everybody. It was great to see. The town was able to lend a helping hand by providing the town center as reception center starting Saturday, September 24th and running through Friday, October 7th. And thank you to all individuals who helped as residents and guests need a facility that provided showers, snacks, and coffee, and electrical charging station, and just warmth in general was the mass power outages. Also this time I'd like to recognize a good friend of mine, Ray Murphy from Andrews of Stratford. Ray stepped up in the Charlottetown area and provided meals for the senior residents in the Charlottetown area. 75 to 100 people had 2 days of hot meals. He's going to be mad for me saying this, but I had to say this to him. Reach out. It was him and Jeff took the ball by the horns and just took it and helped. Just all but helping people. It was nice to see. So I wanted to congratulate Ray and Jeff, and especially their company, for stepping up in a hardship time. The town experienced considerable tree and trail damages at Cotton Park and Foldings Creek Conservation Park, while also seeing damage to trees in many neighborhoods. The town is committed to restoring parks, trails, and facilities this time. Arts and cultures in front of you there. The drawing classes, beginner water classes starting up, urban sketch and art club, intermediate watercolor, painting classes, life drawing, and so on. We skipped down to our Stratford Youth and Center Council. The youth center closed from September 26th to October 2nd due to the Hurricane Fiona recovery. The center reopened on Monday, September 3rd, once it was deemed safe to have groups gather at Robert Cotton facility. Youth members volunteered at the town hall reception during Fiona recovery. In addition, youth center members were encouraged to help neighbors with property cleanup, and approximately a dozen youth responded by helping others in the community with hurricane cleanup on their own time, which was nice to see. Everybody helping everybody. A number of youth center clubs and programs are starting in October. These include the Youth Council, Newspaper Club, Dungeons and Dragons Club, Art Club, Drama Club, Executive Committee, Youth Engagement Team. A couple of youth center events are in the planning process. The Cheryl Duffy Walk had been postponed due to the hurricane, but now is rescheduled for October 22nd at the Cotton Park. The popular Spooktoberfest has become a must-attend annual event and is scheduled for the last weekend of October 28th to 30th. This event will include the trick-or-treat trail, haunted trail, outdoor movie, and a home decoration contest. Events, unfortunately, for the third consecutive year, Fall Fest had to be canceled due to the pending Hurricane Fiona, with the forecast calling for a once-in-a-lifetime storm. The decision was made to cancel Fall Fest. Months of planning for this much-anticipated event will now be utilized for next year. The following events are slated in the next coming months: October 28th to 30th, the Cotton Park Spooktoberfest, Remembrance Day, of course, on November 11th at the Town Center, Christmas in the Park, December 1st at Robert L. Cotton Park, Free Family Movie, Santa Claus, December 2nd, and New Year's Levy, January 1st, 2023. The fall programs registration now open with adult program beginning on Monday, September 12th. Skills and Drills program starts October 15th at the Paula Sports Center. Fall program registration to open with all adult program have started September 12th. Skills and Drills program started, like I said earlier, Ross, with 30 participants. Ross Burton will be coaching the program again this year, and thank you, Ross. New programs were offered: women's recreational basketball on September through December, canceled due to low registration, just one person registered. Fitness area in the gymnasium, the town center fitness area experienced a surge in daily attendance. This has become a standard for fall as residents look for indoor opportunities to reach their personal fitness goals. The facility is seeing an average of 192 people per day in September, and that number should be continue to rise through fall and winter months. The town center gymnasium, stage/hallways, along with the main lobby, the Southport room, were used extensively during the post-Hurricane Fiona as a town reception center. Guesstimates suggest that the facility was extensively utilized by residents. September 24th, the 700 guests, 25th, 1,500, the 26th September, 1,500 again, September 27th, 700, September 28th, 500 people, September 29th, 250, and now it's 100 from September 30th to October 7th, 100 per day. It's been great to see the regular program and other events being staged once again in the gym. Red Rock Wrestling hosted their first Stratford show on Friday, October 7th. It was the first time Red Rock Wrestling was able to host a show in Stratford since May 2019. The following day, the PEI Reptile Pet Expo and the Town Center Gymnasium for the Reptile and Pet Exposition. Going forward, Elections PEI will be setting up office in the Kepic Kenlock Room October 11th through the November 10th for municipal elections. The following voting days are booked in the gym: October 29th, October 31st, November 4th, and November 7th. And last, in closing, our sport fields. All fields are currently closed for maintenance. Our recreation infrastructure staff continues to focus on Hurricane Fiona cleanup of town properties, active transportation corridors, trails, and parks. Lower McNeil is a lone exception as it be prepared for the Stratford under 22 to finish their season. So that's the end of my report, Your Worship. Recreation.
Okay, any comments or questions on Councillor Gallant's report?
Councillor Gallant, I must say over the last 4 years, you had a lot of events. Like we've had one New Year's Eve levy. The Canada Canada Day was wiped out one day with rain, and the other 2 days with COVID. So the staff gets ready for this stuff, but they have to think quick on their feet to get reorganized.
Yeah, you're
Like even the Fall Fest was canceled this year. Like
Yes.
we've had some hard luck with this stuff.
Yes.
But keep plugging away, we'll get her done.
Yep. They're scheduled and they're plugging away, and if it's, I guess it happens, it happens. I guess we can't control Mother Nature.
Any other comments or questions?
Councillor Gallant, is the ball season over? Or perhaps Jeremy?
I dare say softball is over.
Yeah, most of the ball programs or the summer programs are finished with the lone exception of U22 that just had delays with kids going back to school, and then Hurricane Fiona, and then they had game 1 last night, and then there's another game tonight and potentially game 3 tomorrow evening at Lower McNeil.
Yeah, no, I just noticed the lights on at the McNeil Field there.
Yeah, last night we had them on. Yeah, and they'll be on again this evening and potentially tomorrow evening.
Okay, thanks.
It's good to see a Canadian team still playing baseball.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I guess I think this was reported last time, but we had a ton of success with our ball teams and softball teams this year. Ball's growing. What was how did everything run this summer with the ball and softball programs and capacity? How did that all work its way out?
Rachel Arsenault works extensively with our 2 ball programs, softball and baseball, to coordinate field times, along with the 2 representatives of both those organizations who act as field coordinators. There's been a little bit more communication between the 2 groups to minimize downtime in fields, just because they are at such a premium. The one thing we do constantly get requests for is tournaments and different events to host regionals and that sort of thing, which we haven't had capacity, simply because it puts our current teams, it eliminates their opportunity to play their own regular season games and that sort of thing. So their numbers are continuing to grow, so we'll have to keep looking at opportunities in the future, and they have been good to go outside the community to try and find field times elsewhere.
Yeah.
Thanks.
One last thing, I'd just like to mention the girls' soccer team, the PEI girls' soccer team. There's a lot of girls from Stratford on that team. They got silver medal for every team across Canada. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the history of that is, but I did follow that. I was away on the weekend and did follow that extensively, and pretty impressive feat when tiny Prince Edward Island can compete against the best teams from across the country. So kudos to those girls and congratulations.
Yeah, this year, the last couple of years, our council recognized, Jill answered that question, is facilities are just outgrown, or we're just I can go on and go on and go on. We know where we're at with hockey. We know where we're at with baseball and softball. We got to expand, and with the purchase of the community campus, it's like we have something there to look upon, right? And at least we all knew around the table, moving forward, like purchasing that land, 150 acres, putting a high school there, and hopefully other stuff there, and then facilitate those baseball and softball fields, and hopefully host a tournament in Stratford, by our own teams, like our own girls and guys, right? So the spin-offs there, the business spin-off is unreal. People coming to our town and hosting events. It's a spin-off for a great commercial business and so on. Just a win-win-win for everybody.
Okay. Any other, excuse me, any other comments or questions on Councillor Gallant's recreation report? If not, thank you for your report, Councillor Gallant. We'll now move on to Finance and Technology, and I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Gail McDonald, to give her report.
Thank you, Worship. My report is in your package. I'll go over a few of the highlights that the department has been working on the last month. The tourism levy is on the council agenda this evening for first reading, and it will be then sent out to the residents for further consultation. The quarterly governance meeting with the switch program was held in this past month, and they're currently working on the long-term forecast spreadsheet. They've been meeting with the other directors with the town to review that. They had virtual meetings to work on the sustainable procurement policy with Reeve Consulting. They attended a climate change adaptation session at the Delta. Staff also worked hard in the in the town reception center during Hurricane Fiona. The staff attended the AIM conference in Charlottetown in September. The utility bills are being processed and the e-bills have been sent out. The mailed bills will be going out tomorrow, and residents should receive them by October 18th. The due date for these is November 17th. They're currently gathering information to work on the future lease with the Public Services Branch. And staff is also busy due to staff shortages within the department. However, they should be back to full staff contingent by October 17th. We also had our regular monthly meeting on September 20th. That report is also in your package. We discussed at length the tourism levy. There's a lot of good discussion on that at our meeting. Also, we discussed the consolidated statements, and our finance director reported that we had a very clean audit done this year, which was great to see. Our finance director also reported, though, that she does have some concern on the utility corporation side. Revenue is down approximately 50% or $50,000, and our operating surplus is only $4,700. So she mentioned that we are going to have to look at those rates over the coming months. Also, one of our staff members is working on a project with the town, going through all our metered customers and breaking them out between single-family dwellings, duplexes, apartments, row houses, to try to figure out the consumption differences that are between the different types of dwellings. Also, we discussed the naming of the area around the cenotaph. I informed the committee that the area around the cenotaph, including the triangle of greenery, as well as the sidewalks and flower beds, will be designated Veterans Memorial Green, and this location will be restricted for the theme of service recognition and remembrance only. So the committee was pleased with that. We also discussed to make sure that our town insurance covered cybersecurity, and Kim replied that yes, it does. Perhaps a separate policy might be needed to be increased due to the several ransomware attacks that are happening both in the public sector. We reviewed the capital projects update, so we had a good meeting. The next meeting was scheduled for October 18th, but I believe due to staff shortages and other reasons, the staff being quite busy with Fiona, that we're going to put it off till November, our next meeting. The financial statements are also in your package. Generally speaking, the revenue for the town is down about 2%. Our expenses are down 7.6%. I'd say this is just a snapshot in time. The Stratford utility revenue is down 4%, and our expenses are down 0.7%. So that's pretty much where we thought we'd be. That's my report, Your Worship. If there's any questions, myself or our finance director would be glad to answer them. And I also have a resolution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your report. Any questions or comments for Councilor McDonald?
Counselor, this interest rate rises and the interest rate rises coming, how much does that affect us? I mean, obviously it does. I mean, I know our interest rates are going to go,
Yeah.
they're going up. It affects our borrowing, I
Well,
take it.
I'll let Kim take that.
Yeah.
We have several loans, of course, and they be locked in, of course. so,
Exactly, yeah, like our current loans are all locked in for long-term, so that's good. Any new ones that we do go to get, the interest rates will be a lot higher than what we have seen over the past few years, for sure.
So will that have, like, obviously that affects us, because if it's going to cost us more than what we planned for, we're going to have to look at things, eh?
That's correct, yep, so we'll have all those numbers analyzed in our budget, for sure.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions?
I have just a couple of questions. The tourism levy, we're going to discuss that tonight. I just saw this today on the agenda. Where are we heading with this now?
Yeah, so we're just basically,
Yeah.
you know, following Charlottetown and Cornwall's
Yeah.
lead as well on this, so.
Summerside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have, they've had a tourism levy in place for some time now, and so we're just going to play catch-up, and it won't affect too many residents or business owners in Stratford at this time, but, you know, moving forward as our town grows, we just thought we'd, you know, have something in place similar. There's no sense Charlottetown and Stratford having different rules as far as that levy goes. Right, so, did you want to add anything to that, Kim?
It was, last year when we did our strategic planning session with council, that was one of the items that was listed on the work plan for us to look into and get implemented for the town. So it was a work item that we did, and now we are bringing it forward through, the next item is the passing, or discussion and resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we'll
it's-
be discussing this as part of the resolution, Councillor, so
Yeah, yeah.
it'll be part of the discussion about
Yeah.
background and everything like that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
I
you're sorry.
apologize. It's
Anyways, no.
great.
Jump ahead.
And just one more, with the Rcmp retroactive pay, I know it's $300,000 or $400,000. Where are we at with it? Is any,
There hasn't been any final decision that I'm aware of.
There's been, I've seen no communication on that at all.
I've written to the Minister of Public Safety on August 30th and haven't received a response. So I'll follow up prior to the next council meeting.
Right, and FCM is also taking a strong stand on this as well,
that's
so
what-
we discussed it at the board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister has said that it'll be on hold for now. Like that was a statement that was made back a while back. I think it was a few months ago. So until we hear otherwise, we have to keep the money, set the money aside, but we will hopefully not have to pay that amount of money, because it will cut into other things that we will be needing to do, especially after the hurricane.
yeah, exactly, yeah. I believe FCM National is looking, pushing
Yes.
this too, right?
And plus FPIM as well, yep.
Yeah, that's great, yeah, which is good, more voices,
That's
better,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, unified voice.
Okay, I'm going to jump the gun here just a little bit. In 12F, we have an application tonight for a food truck coming to this town. Are they taxed? Because I'm a little concerned about a business moving to Stratford that's going to be using our fire and our police services, and not have to pay tax. Like that's a little concern to me, but do we have any
Could
clarification
we
on
discuss that as part of the tourism levy?
Yeah.
Because it is sort of appropriate to discuss it as part of that item.
Okay, so I'll withdraw the question.
So just raise it whenever we get to the resolution, whenever the
Yeah,
resolution's.
well, I'll be asking that question, just to let you know.
Okay,
All right.
no, that's fine.
Thank
I
you,
just
Fred.
had one small question, I guess more of a request. I found, I was at the meeting, I found the capital projects update really valuable, and I think it would be really useful to have that capital projects update provided to council on a regular basis at
Yep.
Committee of the Whole whenever we meet, because I think it allows councilors to answer questions about what's happening with this project or that project, and so I think if that's not a problem,
Not
that's
a
create a lot
problem.
of work, I think it'd be great to
No,
have.
it's, the PDF's already done, so we
Yeah,
can just
it's done
send
monthly
it to
anyway,
Mary
so
as
yeah,
well.
no problem.
It's a great document.
It might be interesting to present here, right? Is it
Absolutely.
public? Is it public? Is it, I guess it's, no.
No.
Okay, it's just in committee. It was
It's-
reviewed for
yeah.
the committee for a recommendation. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure, we can discuss that as part of our first presentation at Committee of the Whole. If there's information on there that may be sensitive or proprietary or anything
Yeah.
like that, then we need to obviously keep that, private or not disclose it publicly.
Okay.
But we will discuss that.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions for Councillor McDonald? If not, please proceed with the resolution.
Thank you. Resolution number FT 009-2022, Tourism Accommodation Levy Bylaw, Bylaw number 54, first reading. Whereas the town of Stratford has developed a tourism accommodation bylaw to collect a levy on all accommodations, including tourist establishments that are booked through accommodation platforms, and whereas the levy shall be collected at the time of the purchase on the total amount of the purchase price and shall be remitted to the town at the prescribed times and in the prescribed manner as set forth in this bylaw. And whereas the proceeds raised by the levy shall be used to promote the town as a tourist destination. And whereas a bylaw is required to enable the application of the tourism accommodation levy, be it resolved that the attached tourism accommodation levy bylaw, bylaw number 54, be hereby read and approved a first time. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Finance and Technology Committee as discussed at a meeting held on September 20th, 2022, and the Sustainability Committee as discussed at a meeting held on September 14th, 2022. So moved.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Maybe your question would be appropriate at this time, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, again, the only concern I would have is that, like businesses moving to Stratford, but I'm just a little concerned about fire services, police protection, whether or not these people are paying a levy or a tax to cover off those costs. Because this is going to be the first of many, I hope.
Yeah. I think you had mentioned it was about the food truck.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's totally,
it's-
that's different than,
Oh,
that's
this is
planning,
the
I'm sorry,
tourism.
okay.
That's in the plan.
This is the tourism levy.
Yeah.
Councillor Gallant, I guess you had
I'll withdraw that question until the planning.
Yes.
Sorry about that. You had a question about the tourism levy.
I understand, I understand where we're heading there. Just wanted to was sort of new business for me tonight just to see this, so I'm quite comfortable with Gail's.
So the background,
Yeah.
you're clear
Oh,
on the
yeah.
background and that
Yes.
we're doing what other municipalities are doing. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, just
It's
follow.
great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Best practice, I
Yeah.
guess you might say.
Question I have is, what's the procedure like? Do we send letters out to all the businesses, Kim,
Yeah.
and then give them a notice that this is what's taking place?
Yeah. So we,
Is that how it works?
like, we have time to kind of plan what exact process we're going to be doing. There will be consultation in between the first and second reading, and you'll notice in the bylaw, it does state that it doesn't become effective till April of 1st of 2023, to give us time to figure out, okay, are we sending out letters? Are we going to do
Yeah.
meetings with the business community? So yeah, so it does give us some options, for sure.
Right.
Just wondering.
Did you say we're doing consultation in between the first and second reading?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's part of our engagement strategy.
To do it in between, you'd think you would have done it before the first reading, no?
You still have, we have done this with some other bylaws, done it in between the first and the second reading. We could have did it before too, but we will be doing a consultation to meet our engagement strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that you would have done the consultation and then then tweak our draft bylaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then based on the consultation and then bring it forward for first reading?
Yeah, it was something, we didn't realize that we had to, like, when we were passing the new bylaw, we didn't realize that we had to actually do that step as part of the engagement strategy, and it was brought to my attention by the CAO that we missed that step, but we do have that time in between the first and second reading.
So this was brought to your attention subsequent to the finance meeting?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So should this be deferred, or, just a question, just to make it legal, like, I mean, we should know all the facts.
We don't have to do it tonight.
Yep. Once I saw the package the other day, I said that we do have to do an engagement process, but typically we do it before, but we can have the first reading tonight and still have the information back, just to keep the process moving. If there is information that comes forward before the second reading that requires further delay after that, we could do it, or you could defer it tonight, either way.
So if there are changes, can we make amendments at second reading?
We can, yes.
We can? So we can amend it even though we've done first reading on this version?
We could amend or defer at the second
beg your
reading.
pardon?
We could amend or defer at the second reading, but when I mentioned to the Director of Finance, if we still want to keep moving along here, we still have to do the consultation, but we may have to do some, like we're talking about now, further amendments or deferral.
So that's legal then to do a version different from the first reading to give it second reading? And
Certainly.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And any member of council who has any issue with it, they have a month now to make those points known,
Yeah.
right?
But if council feels more comfortable deferring it tonight until we do have the consultation, that's not a problem either. Like, we don't have to have it. It's not time sensitive right now. So if there is a level of comfort to do it that way, we can do it that way.
I think the other thing we were considering was, it's gone through 2 of our committees up to this point, sort of thing, and there'll be a new face of council in December. So, we were just, perhaps that was part of the reason that we moved it along a little quicker, because it's been worked
Correct.
on now for about a year and a half. And, but yeah, there's no great urgency, right? I mean, we can go back to the, let the business community that has accommodations have a little bit more time to review it. So it's up to council tonight.
I guess you're going out for your consultation to the business community, but you've already passed the first reading of the bylaw. I just wonder how meaningful the business community will feel that, how meaningful that engagement will be
Exactly.
then, having known that but
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't mean to be throwing.
No, it's, but.
I just wonder about meaningful feedback, but
We're going to do virtual consultation right away. We're going to do some other consultation, but you can have, changes made at the second reading. Further information can come along.
Okay.
That is the reason for that second reading, right? So it's not the normal procedure that we use, but seeing as Councilor McDonald indicated that we have been dealing with this for a little while, and I had to come in at the last minute and say, did we do our
Yeah.
consultation process and
and
follow our
it's good
guidelines?
catch, yeah.
But we can still do that and have the information, and still, if there are questions or amendments that need to be done, we can do it at the second reading. That's the whole purpose of it. In
Okay.
case there's something that comes
And what
along
if-
that would,
what if the feedback we get really makes, maybe not tweaks, maybe there's big changes, is that still okay?
we can
This-
defer it then and then bring it back at
Yeah.
a later date.
Okay, so this kind of is, if we're going in and we see that there's tweaks that the business community would like to see, we can still follow through to second reading, but if they look at it and say, there's a lot here we'd like to change, then it's
That'll be a decision of council, but that information will be brought forward to council, and they'll have that for your decision.
Yeah, and it's not the whole business community, it's just ones who have accommodations, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. And we're not having a public meeting, just virtual, right? Virtual consultations,
So it's just a consultation, it's not a public meeting,
right?
is it?
We may choose to do that, but right now we're going with virtual consultation. If we do see that we have to have some public consultation, we will. There's not many people or businesses in the town that have that at this point, and that's why we're bringing it through the way we are, is before that there is a large amount of
Onslaught.
tourism establishments here.
Yeah, we basically almost copied Charlottetown's bylaw, right? So we,
Not sure on
you know,
that.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's right. Like,
No,
copy
I'm
and
not saying that.
pasting
That's why-
sometimes
I'm
leads
just-
to more
you know,
problems.
That's why we are proceeding right away with the
Yeah.
consultation process to get the information and feedback.
The only other piece, is, in the so included in this bylaw is your short-term rentals, right?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that isn't, so how are you going to consult there? Because it is, your bed and breakfasts, and I don't know how many of them we have in this town, and I know we're working on a short-term rental bylaw too alongside this, so, but how are you going to identify your stakeholders in this
The
consultation?
stakeholders would be if they're registered with Tourism PEI.
Okay, so
That's
the
the
registration
stakeholders.
is open, it's promoted, and then whoever's
Yeah.
interested would be, okay.
There could be other ones out there, but
Okay.
the ones that are, the legal ones are registered with Tourism PEI.
So they would get a notification?
Yeah.
Okay, all
We
right.
get the list from Tourism PEI.
Okay.
Yep. I'll reach out to Tourism PEI. Yep.
Okay, okay. Okay,
Any other comments or discussion?
I think it should be deferred. I think all the facts should be on the table, but, if you're comfortable doing it this way, fine, but, I think all the facts should be there when we're doing a resolution and voting on something to do it next one, especially now, with possibly change of council coming on board. I don't know.
Well, we have a motion moved and seconded. Do you want to make a motion to defer?
I'll make a motion that we defer the resolution to next month.
Any
If that-
seconder?
Will it take a month to do it, or a month? Yeah.
Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Can I second, because I did second the resolution, can I second that one?
I-
Well, yes.
I believe
But
so,
did you-
yeah.
Did he second it?
He seconded the original motion.
Okay.
And I believe he can second the
And then we
deferral
discuss.
motion as well if he wants
Yeah.
to.
You vote twice?
I think we have all the facts, other than, what the accommodation people might say, sort of thing.
Well, I moved the first one to get the conversation going,
Yep.
Mhm, yeah,
and now I can second Gary's. with
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
mayor's,
No problem.
So we can discuss that.
certainly, yeah.
With,
So I'll second that motion.
Okay, any
Does-
discussion? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
discussion. Does what we're doing, by doing the consultation in between the first, second reading, align with our community engagement strategy? I guess that's the question. Is it in this process, and I think, Jeremy, you did answer that already, this is in alignment with our engagement guidelines?
We're still going to follow all the guidelines. Should we have done it before? It would have been better to have all the information.
Yeah.
But it was caught, and I wouldn't want to see this go through without having any consultation
Oh,
whatsoever.
absolutely. Yeah.
If we do decide to defer, we can. It probably will be the new council that's dealing with it more than the existing council.
Yeah.
But I still think we can get the actual information that we need, get the consultation process. We're not dealing with a lot of individuals that are involved here. We're going to put it out virtually, so I still think there's an opportunity to do that. It's not ideal, but it can be done. So it's the decision of council.
Yeah. And I mean, I hate to pass it on to a new council.
That's our,
Like,
bit of our concern.
I do see the pinch, and I do see why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, because, and it's not only new council, it's new committees, right?
Correct.
Potentially, because all the committees will be shifted. So, yeah, so I feel like if the consultation is still gonna be done, then that's the issue, right? Like,
Our engagement guidelines are that, they're guidelines.
Yeah.
But we like to make sure that we
Yeah.
do follow them, and then we
Yeah.
have those, we have all the information in front of council before they make that decision, so
yeah.
legally, we can do it.
If we're upfront within the engagement to say, this is why we're doing it this way, it ended up, and we're very transparent in why we're doing a consultation amidst the first and second reading, then I think people will understand, right?
I would just go through the same process that we always do and try to engage as many people as we can that are
Yeah.
involved in this, and
Yeah.
explain the process out and indicate that it will be coming back to council for another reading.
Okay.
And they will have their chance to give their feedback before that happens.
Yeah.
And we can get that out to council before the meeting. So you can review it and have your information before we get there. I think that allows time to do that.
So you're saying, you're standing by the format that was proposed?
We can do it
First,
that
right,
way.
yeah.
I'm saying it's able to be achieved, I believe. But if council, you guys are the decision makers, if you're not comfortable with it, then we can look at deferring it, but it probably will be a new council that'll have to deal with it.
So under the MGA, can we pass first reading and the new council pass second and third?
Well,
Probably not.
that
without
wouldn't be
discussion.
that wouldn't be
No.
the case right
No.
now.
So then it would be put off till January, February.
That's right.
We're trying to get this up and running by April 1st. I'm not trying to rush it, and hopefully 30 days with Wendy's help on this, we can get the consultation done.
If you're deferring it, you're going with a new
Oh,
council,
yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess, oh,
Again,
sorry, go ahead.
The question is, it's legal, yes, I understand that, but we're going to have two different councils, technically, making a decision on one subject.
No,
No, I think what we're trying to do, by doing it this way, we can get this potentially done.
finished under this
It
council.
gives us a chance to
Oh,
get
we're
it
gonna try to get
done
it finished
prior
under
to the
this
new
council.
council coming in.
Correct.
But if there was a lot of feedback that kind of, then I think they would have to defer and the new council would have to deal with it. But if this gives us a shot at cleaning this up before the new council comes in.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with that than saddling on a new council with this.
So I think that I can, yeah. So I guess, I don't know, the motion's on the floor.
No, the motion on the floor is
defer.
to defer, and
Do you
I'd like,
withdraw?
any other comments?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Your Worship. Does he withdraw his seconding that? He- No, but you seconded it.
I'm not sure what the procedure is with regard, yeah, once you second the motion, I think it's on the floor, so.
okay.
But you
Yeah.
can,
Okay.
the mover of the motion can
Yeah, you
withdraw
gotta
it if
vote
he
on it.
wishes. Do you want to vote on it, or do you want to withdraw it?
Why'd you-
I'll withdraw.
Okay, so we'll vote, go back, so that's now,
Yeah. Derek's got to agree with you.
I also agree
Yeah.
with Deputy Mayor, I wish to withdraw.
okay. So that motion is officially withdrawn, that's Robert's Rules of Order, we're in compliance with that, we're good?
Now we're on the original. Now
We're
on the
back,
original.
we're back to the original motion, which has been moved and seconded, which is to put the first reading, to put the tourism, to move forward with the tourism levy. So any other comments or questions on the original motion?
Yeah, I think it just has to be clear in the communication. I know Wendy and Kim will handle that there's reasons why we're doing it this way, and a big reason being, we were really hoping to get this done prior to a new council coming in, but if the feedback is extensive, that we would pass it on to the new council, and
Yeah, I think if this motion passes tonight, before we would move to second or third reading, we would look at the amount of feedback
Yeah.
and the nature of the feedback, and how much change there would be to the original resolution. And there could be a motion to withdraw it or to defer it at that time.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we could still have first reading tonight, and you could still, at the next meeting,
Second.
withdraw your original motion, I believe, if we, or move to
Just not put it
defer it.
on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's no other discussion, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
There we go.
That's my report, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you. I just have to get my computer going here again. Okay, the next item on the agenda is, I thank you for your report, Councillor McDonald. Next item on the agenda is Planning, Development, and Heritage. I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Darren McDougall, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few resolutions here today, so I'll be doing some reading. The resolutions were all born from our discussions at our council meeting on October not our council meeting, our committee meeting on October the 6th. I will highlight some of, I will discuss some of the highlights here now from that meeting, and then we can move to the resolutions. The building permits for this year, at the start of the year, there was a significant increase. It's tapered off in the last couple of months. However, we're still, for development permits, we're still $2 million ahead of last year's number. And consistent with our expectation, the permits that we're seeing now are in line with our expectations, which are more dense, townhouses, multi-units and whatnot. Again, that's consistent with our expectations. Further, the committee had some discussions, decisions, development on Irving Avenue development. The builder has made some, I would suggest, some significant changes perhaps to their scheme, eliminating their underground parking and whatnot. So we had a discussion in regard to that and arrived at a recommendation, which again will be displayed here in a resolution in a little bit. Further to that discussion, we had discussions about a food truck vendor who made a request, an application, which resulted in a discussion, and it was a broad one because food trucks are something that we are currently looking at developing bylaws to manage. So the application from Haltor was reviewed by our committee, and subsequently a recommendation was born from that. And again, it'll be displayed here in a resolution. But it is a topic that, and I know Councillor Smith had made reference here tonight. I think this is the lane that you were in there, Councillor Smith, when you talked about permits or whatnot, or food trucks. At any rate, the official plan and whatnot from Crossroads, the Crossroads development, the Gray Group had provided an update. Again, everything here is in your package. Beyond that, I think I think I've covered everything in the highlights from that meeting. If there's any questions, and I think Councillor Smith, perhaps you might engage that
I think
commentary
it's
or
part of the resolution.
question.
I'll make my comment to the resolution,
Okay,
then I'll make that
perfect.
comment.
I just had just a request. I attended that meeting, and I guess if I could be added to those present in the minutes, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. And the meeting was held in person, which was kind of unique and interesting and fun, different.
Yeah, it says
So
Zoom, but...
It says Zoom, but yeah, we got to correct
we were
that
there.
too, because it wasn't.
I think
It was-
Danny,
it was-
one of our members, was attended by Zoom, if I recall correctly.
Correct, Danny
Yeah.
did, and the rest of us were all there in the same room.
Yeah.
Had a nice meal. It's been a few years since a committee meeting. I don't know if there's been any others other than that one, but personally, I prefer that the in-person meetings, but there's arguments both ways. That being said, I think I'll, and again, your permit summaries are in the package there, but I did touch on it. And I think we can move now to our first resolution.
Yeah, please proceed.
The Town of Stratford Resolution Number PH 032-2022-A003-22, a general text amendment, Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw Number 45-L, second reading. Whereas several text amendments to the Zoning and Development Bylaw Number 45 have been identified to modernize the home occupations section to reflect changing times and to respond to new opportunities, as well as other text amendments bringing updated language to improve the Zoning and Development Bylaw Number 45. And whereas a public meeting was held on July 27th, 2022 at 7 p.m. and was live streamed on the town's Facebook and YouTube. Residents were given until August 1st, 2022 to submit their comments. And whereas one comment was received from the public regarding the required text amendments. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45-L, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development bylaw number 45, be hereby read and approved a second time. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on August 1st, 2022, and the Committee of the Whole at a meeting held on August 24th, 2022. So moved.
Second that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion. Any further discussion on this?
Notice there was one comment received from the public. Do we know what that comment was? Positive, negative?
I don't.
I believe we discussed it at the last, at the first
Okay,
reading.
I don't
but I can't
remember
recall
reading
what
it,
the
but-
comment was, yeah.
It was an individual that was looking at a home occupation, having a home occupation. So he just kind of noted, he just kind of was talking about, how, at this point in his business, he wouldn't be able to occupy or lease square footage, and that it is a great incubator program to be able to have home occupation pieces within your community. And he had an array of points that he hit on for sure, but.
Okay, good, thank you.
And he can open up as one himself and one employee right now.
Yeah, and I guess the main, if I recall the nature, it was also, there's a, we don't allow retail as a home occupation, and I believe that was sort of the nature of this gentleman's enterprise.
I think
so-
he was happy to see that the appointment-only option would be there
Yeah,
through
and
a
that's not considered
application
retail,
process,
yeah.
and so that's what we're in this, that's what we were,
Yeah, so it can be made
Adding,
to fit,
yeah,
like a
yeah.
form of selling
Yeah.
can be made to fit within
but
this.
it's through process, and it's through notification letters and your neighbors, and so all that's built into
Yeah.
this home occupation bylaw,
Yeah.
I think, unless I'm saying anything wrong. I think I'm right, but.
Any other discussion, any other comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
Okay. The next resolution.
Adoption.
Town of Stratford Resolution PH 034-2022-10660477 Canada
Right.
Inc.
I believe you got to
it's the
go
wrong
back,
one.
and we got need third
D,
reading for the other
There's
one.
an adoption resolution. Just repeat
the one
that.
about-
3-3.
Sorry about that. Jeez, yours is a little smaller, Derek. I'm old. There you go, Jill. One now, Derek. I started here, I was only 47. Huh? I'm old now. All right. Well, I can't see. I can't see over there. Okay. Town of Stratford Resolution Number PH 033-2022-A003-22 General Text Amendments. Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw Number 45-L-Adoption. Whereas bylaw number 45-L, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw, bylaw number 45, was read and approved a first time on September 14th, 2022. And whereas bylaw number 45-L, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw, bylaw number 45, was read and approved a second time on October 12th, 2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45-L, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw, bylaw number 45, be hereby adopted, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to affix their signatures in the corporate seal of the town thereto, and to be formally declared the said bylaw passed. This bylaw received first reading and formal approval at the town council meeting.
You don't have to read that, you
Okay.
just have to move it.
Okay, that's your guys' signatures, so moved.
Do you have a
I'll second
seconder?
that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
Thanks, Joe.
Bylaw adopted.
I'm good to go. I don't know where that was on. Oh, it was D. Well, I was going to D. Okay. Okay. Our next resolution, Town of Stratford Resolution PH 034-2022-10660477 Canada Inc. Mixed Use Development with Height Exemption, Irving Avenue. Whereas an application has been received from 10660477 Canada Inc. for a 7,920 square foot commercial building, as well as 2 5-story mixed-use buildings, each containing 60 apartment units and 13,960 square feet of commercial space, requiring a height exemption of 62 feet on parcel numbers 790246 and 739003, 5.03 acres in total, located on Irving Avenue within the Mason Road mixed-use zone. And whereas the new building design has been reviewed in detail by planning department staff, and some minor revisions were made to reflect staff's review to ensure the design meets the design guidelines for the Mason Road core area. Whereas the 2 apartment buildings are to be located within the Mason Road mixed-use zone, which has a maximum building height of 12 meters, 40 feet, and whereas a height exemption is required for the project to proceed, and comments have been received from the local fire company regarding the height. Be it resolved that approval be granted to an application received from 10660477 Canada Inc. for a 7,920 square foot commercial building, as well as 2 5-story mixed-use buildings, each containing 60 apartment units and 13,960 square feet of commercial space, thereby requiring a height exemption of 62 feet located on parcel 790246 and 739003, 5.03 acres in total, located on Irving Avenue, subject to the following conditions. The site plan shall be revised to show all internal sidewalks to be connected, as well as the garbage container shall be located in a more central location to better serve all buildings. 2, provision is made for unobstructed access around the building's exterior for year-round emergency services access. 3, the building design and construction are in accordance with the plans submitted from Spitfire Design Company, flight number 4450, dated August 24th, 2022. 4, the building contain an operational sprinkler system with adequate fire-rated central water pressure or an internal standpipe system with adequate water capacity and pressure. 5, in accordance with comments obtained from the Crossroads Rural Community Fire Company. 5A, unobstructed access to the site must be maintained during the construction of the building and the internal road system. 5B, the buildings and the site must be reviewed to ensure that the design is in line compliance with NFPA 1141. 6, all other relevant provisions of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45 are met. 7, all parcels of land must be consolidated prior to the issuance of any development permits. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on October 6, 2022. So moved.
Second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Comments? Kevin?
60 apartment units. Is there any discussion on affordable units, affordable housing unit?
If the answer is no, there was no discussion about that. Now, if Kevin knows something that wasn't discussed, then perhaps he could shed light on it, but there was no discussion about having any of those units as affordable.
No, we need apartments, and we need apartments and affordable apartments, right? So that's what I'm looking at the question, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, affordable is subjective. I don't, did they apply through the province through a program that would
Exactly,
fall within the that particular mandate? I have no indication of that in our meetings, but.
No, I wonder if the developer has any interest in affordable units.
I think it was something I recall being discussed early on in this discussion of this project, that there was some discussion. He said he could look at the different programs to see if there was something, and but it's basically the developer, it could be certainly raised. It wasn't raised with him, to my knowledge, during the planning, or I don't know, Kevin, if you know if there were any discussions that we're not privy to that about this issue.
I wasn't involved in the original discussions during the rezoning and whatnot for the original proposal, so I don't know. I know they are accessing funding through CMHC for the project, but it's not what we would typically call an affordable housing unit, similar to a project that happened in Kensington Road in Charlottetown. There's no actual restrictions on the types or the income amount that people have to be able to go into these units. They are somewhat subsidized based on a reduced interest rate that is given on the loan from CMHC, but it doesn't. There's no tie to your actual income to who can actually who can occupy one of these units. So.
I think that's a really good question, though, Councillor Gallant. I think it is something we should look at in the future about working with developers to this kind of project in the future to get a certain just the way we make a certain number of accessible for people with disabilities that we could be looking or discussing. Look at analysis of what's possible to do to make. I don't know how many units, whether it be a minimum number or something like that available that are affordable. Now, the definition of affordable is a really controversial point as well, because I know there have been some projects in other jurisdictions that use a median income calculation, which means halfway between the highest income and the lowest income, which is quite different from the average income, which is what one would expect to be the barometer for when someone needs to go into affordable housing or qualifies to go into affordable housing. So It is something I think that is, it is a real need in the community, and I think it's something that we should look at in future, and it is, you know, maybe the new council, you know, if either of us get in, maybe we could carry that forward. I'm looking at the chair of finance here.
Councillor Glenn, I can say this, though. If you are developing a project like this, and you secure your funding through CMHC, upon submitting your business plan, to secure that funding, you would have to be at a rate that would be deemed to be, maybe you could qualify it as affordable or less than the market rate, on the premise that you're getting financing through CMHC in some circumstances at 0% interest. So that's how CMHC engages in this to ensure that units like this are somewhat of, we'll use the term affordable, or maybe they can offer them at a lesser rate, let's say, than they would had they received their financing through your normal financial institution. So CMHC does provide that to clients on the premise that your plan does support that the rates are at or below the market value.
And they would monitor that plan too for compliance, eh?
Yeah, arguably, yes, there would have to be.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I see a development in the West Rowley across from Reliable Motors. The Arsenal brothers
Yeah.
stepped up there with some affordable apartments.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of looking at the same avenue here, right?
Yeah, and there's programs through the provincial government and
Right.
whatnot that you qualify for in regard to that.
Yeah.
But, and that's, I think, a subsidy through the provincial government
Right.
versus the CMHC option, which they've apparently opted for. It
Yeah.
does require that the developer offer the units at a rate that they may not offer had they had, you know, if they're using a bank and going at a 6% interest rate or 7%. So that's the kind of the concept or the model behind the availability of funds through CMHC for these types of developments.
Thank you.
Yeah, my whole idea is to help the people in need to establish their base in Stratford, and the same as our young teens and so on moving up that can't afford a down payment for a home, and hopefully these apartments are feasible with this developer and the Gray Group and so on. So hopefully they can jump in there and you know, start. Don't have to move elsewhere, like for instance to other communities, right? So I want to keep our children and our residents in Stratford, right? That's what I'm looking at.
And I think the answer is, in the long term, is more supply equals lower price, because right now the demand far outstrips the supply, so the prices are higher. But I think the points that Councillor McDougall has made have addressed the question. Do you feel that your question was answered?
Oh, yes, oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's just those young people that can't afford that down payment, and they want to stay in Stratford, and maybe they get into an apartment at a reasonable price and then start that first, you know, start off the ground. It's pretty hard. It can be pretty hard, so the way everything is and so on. And anyway, it was just reach out and do the best we can.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other comments? The height exemption okay with everybody?
These amendments basically is fire related, I take it, like for fire services, like the sprinkler system, access for fire departments to get in there.
Those are conditions that are attached.
Yeah, okay,
Attached
yeah.
to the approval, yes. Yep.
I'd like to, so, and I read that in the planning committee, we lost the underground parking from the original design. So we have a lot of above-ground parking. We have more parking lot than we did, which isn't ideal. If you're, you know, looking at what you would like to see built in Stratford. I mean, I get that there's big cost to that too, but I know the original design was just thrown in there for the rezoning. The original building was, I would consider it a little higher. I mean, it's totally speculative, so it means nothing. But the original design of the bigger buildings was a nicer design in my mind, but it doesn't matter because these buildings do meet the design guidelines. We did lose the underground parking. And we lost the underground parking, and they're asking for a larger height exemption, which oh, it's not larger? Same height exemption? Okay. And I'm not against height exemptions. I do feel, and the Gray Group will come in here next, and like you have to build up and not out. That's the golden rule these days for sustainable development, and I can appreciate that. But yeah, I am a little sad that we did lose the underground parking because now we've just got a lot of parking lots.
How many spaces did we lose underground, Councilor McDougall? Kevin?
All of them.
Yeah.
There is no underground parking in the project anymore. Maybe I can help.
Exactly,
How
but
many though?
what was the number, what was the number originally before for car vehicles?
The number of underground parking availability, well, it would be at 60 units, arguably there'd be at least 60 spaces underneath, I suggest.
Okay.
But
Did this go to a public meeting originally?
Originally,
For the rezoning.
Originally, the rezoning did, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, just not this height exemption?
The height exemption is not required to go to the public.
Okay, so is the public aware about this about the underground parking?
No, this would be this is the first public version of this
Okay.
that's been discussed.
And they don't necessarily, like, that's not something that you would have a public meeting on, right? The developer is allowed to come in and set a site design as they see fit, right?
But it's
As
changed
long
quite
as
a bit.
as long as they're answering to our design guidelines, right?
Yeah.
It is unfortunate, Gail, like it is, but I mean, they're allowed to do that,
Yeah.
right?
But there's definitely changes from what the public saw originally, which was the underground parking.
There are, and maybe if I could take a moment, maybe I'll help clarify.
That'd be great.
What some of the major changes are. Obviously, underground parking is a major change. The original proposal that was seen at the public meeting had the appropriate number of underground parking spaces shown on the plan to receive the density bonus, which you could receive for underground parking. You could receive 25% more units if you had at least 75% of the residential parking spaces underground, which the original concept plan did. When they went out into more detailed design, they actually couldn't have the original designer of the building do the detailed design because he just didn't have the resources or the time to be able to do it. So they engaged this company out of Moncton, is the closest people they could help. Along the design stages, there were things within the underground parking, mechanical rooms, structural columns and whatnot, that removed a number of parking spaces that were shown in the original concept. Because the original concept just showed underground parking and didn't get into elevator shafts and mechanical rooms and all that stuff. So when they actually came back with their proposed building, a more complete design of the proposed building, one of the first things we noticed, and it proposed to have underground parking, it just had less than 75%. So because it had less than 75%, they no longer were eligible for the density bonus. So that meant the number of units they were proposing on the property would no longer fit. So we met with the project manager. We went over a number of details. We talked about the exterior design of the building, versus the original plan. We talked about a whole bunch of things. So they said, we're going to take this all back for appliance, and we're going to discuss it, and we'll come back to you. We expected there would be some type of changes made, that there would just be additional underground parking spaces that we found, and we were just dealing with a different design of the building. We're a little surprised when they came back with the next revision. So there's 10 less units on this property than were on the original property. The commercial building, which if you see on the screen, you can see my mouse, the commercial building, the little business mall, it's called here, had 10 residential units above it. It was a 2-story building in the original proposal. It's now a 1-story building, so it's only a commercial building, and there is no residential units above it. So there's only a total of 120 units on the overall property. So the height of these two mixed-use buildings did not change. The number of units in either of them did not change. But the number of units on the overall property decreased by 10, allowing it to fit within the density requirements within the zone, 25 units per acre. But unfortunately, the underground parking was what was sacrificed to, if you're going to lose that many units, they could no longer afford to do the underground parking. So they ultimately made a business decision that they're going to propose to remove the underground parking. The additional above ground parking is essentially the original site plan, this laneway coming in, there was only parking on one side of it, and now there's parking on both sides of it. So that's where the additional above ground parking spaces have been made up, and also on the end of this building. There was no parking on the end of this building previous. So those are the,
So you're saying that if they could have their 10 units back on top of the strip mall thing, then they could do the underground parking?
no.
Oh,
No, the issue that they had was they couldn't fit the 75% of the required residential parking spaces under the building. When all of the other items were taken into the design, they no longer had room under the footprint to get that many parking spaces under the building. So
shoot.
we thought there was going to be a revision made that would simply accommodate additional underground parking spaces, but I guess it was a business decision that we can't accommodate that number of parking spaces under the building any longer. So if they removed the underground parking spaces, then they afforded to remove a certain number of residential units on the property to offset that.
And so the math came down to like 10 parking spots?
No.
No.
No. It was. I don't know the actual number off the top of my head, but it was significant enough.
Oh, it was
that
significant.
that there's no wiggle room on it. The bylaw is clear. It's got to be 75% of the parking spaces to get the bonus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in an ideal world, you kind of want those buildings, especially the big one, pulled a little closer to the street, right? Not 2 lanes of parking
No,
lot.
that's the exact same site plan that was.
Is it? Did it have
that
the
was
2?
Yep.
It didn't have
Because
just
it's
one?
Because it has mixed use.
Yeah.
It actually had parking in front of the building.
2 rows of it?
Yeah.
Or 1?
No, 2 rows.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that this building was pulled up equivalent to the strip mall one, that they had the, no. Okay.
You might be right. I don't.
I might be
recall
wrong,
that.
too. I might be wrong, too.
I
And
believe there was always 2 rows there.
there was. I should have looked at the old plan. Yeah,
So this is now a 1-story building.
Yeah.
And these residential units that were above are no longer there.
which is a lost opportunity, too, right?
This is the development business.
Yeah.
There's always a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
It's, we'd like to be able to see everybody do everything and be able to bring a product to the market that is affordable and whatnot, but, we're dealing in challenging times here, and I think the developers are doing what they feel from a business sense they have to do to try and bring the project forward.
And so, yeah, like, so the height of the buildings are the same. Yeah, I feel like, and I know that we're looking at building guidelines for the core area, and yeah, it's too bad because I feel like they would come in handy here right now, but we don't have them. Like
No, we do have guidelines for this.
but we don't have step backs after certain stories or street facing, like setbacks on the 3rd floor. Or, like they do have for the massing piece, like they do have the commercial bottom there in a different
And they have the
material.
They have the vertical
And they
integration
do have the
that's required.
vertical.
There's a number of components, like
Yeah.
actually all the components that are required are on the actual drawing. I think you're referring to one of the additional things that's proposed between either the urban corp land by the Grey Group
Yeah.
or the waterfront plan
Yeah.
the town did themselves, was they're talking at either the first or third floor that there will be a
Yeah.
step, it's called a step back in
Yeah.
the building. So it'll keep the actual street face of the building more human scale.
Mhm.
So the building won't look like it's out over the sidewalks and whatnot.
Mhm.
But this building actually does have a step back in it. It's at the first floor and it's only on the ends of the building. When you look at the.
Oh, yeah, I see
when
it.
you look,
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
on each end when you're looking at it from the front.
But it's not in the front.
When you look at the building end on, it simulates that there's a step back, but this
Mhm.
white part of the building is actually out flush with the brick.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think it's a design way of giving you both. It kind of it gives you the simulation that there is a step back, but it's the decks that are stepped in. And then that's what gives the vertical articulation along the front of the building and the change in materials and whatnot.
And so do we know what those materials are? Is that set yet or no?
I believe they're all listed on the.
They are
on
listed
drawings.
somewhere?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I don't have them here in front of me, but this was proposed that it was not going to be brick on the revision that was brought back, and it was suggested that, you know, there was a lot of brick on the
There
original
was,
building, and we
yep.
felt at least on the commercial exposures, you know, we wanted to at least bring that component back, so they did agree to do that. I think the others are a mixture of vinyl and metal, and faux wood, I believe, is also one of the materials.
That must be the big main vertical, maybe?
I think that's metal.
Oh, that's gonna be metal?
Yeah, I think so, but it's installed vertically instead of, there's different applications for metal now, which kind of changes the actual look of it, so
Mhm.
if I zoom in on that, I believe that's vertical.
Hmm.
You see the lines in it, and the white is horizontal.
Kevin,
Yeah.
can you show the garbage pickups where they're gonna be for the
Sure.
buildings?
So this is and I guess here's another significant change. In the original proposal, and I believe during the public meeting, there was a question raised about the actual, where was the garbage going to be? And it was stated that it was going to be underground. Because there was underground parking, it was stated that the actual garbage corrals were going to be underground. And I think that somewhat alleviated the concerns, and that was kind of the end of the discussion. With no underground parking, now there is proposed to be surface garbage receptacles. So there's proposed to be one here. Now these are not your waste watch residential bins. These are commercial. Large truck comes in, picks them up overhead. So both the residential and the commercial would be using large bins instead of the individual waste carts from Waste Watch. So there's one here, which is proposed for these two buildings, and there's one here, which is proposed for this commercial building. You'll note in the resolution, one of the recommendations is stated, and I'll have to go to the recommendation to read it. Condition 1, that the site plan be revised to show all internal sidewalks to be connected, as well as the garbage containers shall be located in a more central location to better serve all buildings. We had suggested possibly even rather than a gated, which is being proposed on their drawing here, they're proposing a gated garbage corral like this, possibly even something that is covered. It doesn't have to be a full building, but it's something that it would prevent the spread of materials on the neighboring properties from wind conditions and whatnot. Obviously, it needs proper ventilation and whatnot because it is going to be a garbage receptacle, but we just felt there could be a better location, move this, that it's more central to potentially all three buildings, maybe a little more enhanced, and provide better circulation. And we've distributed those comments to the project manager. They understand. They said they were willing to work with the town on that.
So are these large garbage containers that a person has to kind of lift the large lid? And I'm wondering how that's going to be convenient for seniors.
They typically have sliding doors on the sides of them, the ones that I've seen. So that's how you actually get into on a residential site. So you'd go inside the building, there would potentially be a sliding door on the the side of the bin itself that you can actually put your compost or waste in.
Yeah, so there'd be separate compost and waste.
There's still
For the
required,
60
still required to have
apartments.
separate compost and waste.
So
yeah.
that's part of the plan as well then?
Yes, yeah.
So Kevin, other than the zoning exemption, or the height exemption, does this comply with all the zoning requirements with
Yes.
the conditions?
It does, yes. Subject to the conditions that are in the recommendation, yes.
So do we have a written notice from our fire department that this is okay?
You did on the original proposal, on the original height exemption. The height exemption hasn't changed, so we didn't ask for an update.
We have from the original one with the 62 feet?
Yeah, and this
Okay.
is still 62 feet, so
Okay.
no change to the height
And
exemption.
the green space didn't change? We're going to have green space for these people?
There would absolutely be less green space on this because there's more asphalt. So yes, there would be.
So percentage is still 10%?
No, that's a subdivision requirement. That's not a requirement for a development
So
proposal.
what do we have for requirement?
There is no requirement for green space on
Wow.
a development proposal.
That's-
You're referring to like public parkland?
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
yeah.
that's-
Or green space for the apartments, right? I'm hearing that criticism at the door now, sort of thing, that.
Okay. There is a significant green space at the back of the
I
property.
saw it in one of the pictures, so I'm hoping that they are going to provide that,
Yeah,
benches for the.
This was proposed in the original design, and it's the same green space area that was proposed in the original design. I don't know what the details were that they were talking about putting there, but yes, that is the green space.
Yeah, there
that
was a couple
proposed.
pictures there with benches and people to sit down there.
And it does act as like a decent, it's placed nicely to buffer from the residential neighborhood.
Yeah,
I mean,
from
it's,
Mm-hmm.
because you are, that is a significant change in buildings from one to the next. but-
It's a change in height, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's a good step increase.
Yes.
You've got row houses and two-unit townhouses up against
Into,
a
yeah.
mixed-use style building, so,
Yep.
very, in the planning world, that's a very natural
Acceptable.
step. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion or comments, questions?
Kevin, this meets your approval of your department?
The recommendation is in there from staff and from planning board, yes.
Any other comments? No? Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay, I believe you have one more
Okay.
resolution, Councillor McDougall.
Yeah, the Hell Tour, yeah. Yeah, two.
Or you have got two, yeah, sorry, yep.
Town of Stratford Resolution PH 035-2022- DP 208-22- temporary commercial use dash Hull Tour Food Truck dash 14 Kinlock Road. Whereas an application has been received from Hull Tower Farms, maybe limited, for a temporary commercial permit to operate a food truck on parcel number 1011782, located at 14 Kinlock Road within the Mason Road Commercial Zone. And whereas in accordance with Section 8.34, temporary commercial uses of the Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, temporary development permits may be issued for a temporary commercial use subject to compliance with the following. A, the development shall not result in any traffic hazard. B, the development shall not interfere with the parking requirements of permanent users of the lot which the development will be located. C, the development shall not create a public nuisance. D, the temporary permit shall not exceed a 20-week period. E, the applicant shall provide a letter of approval from the property owner of the lot on which the temporary development will be situated. F, where required, the applicant shall satisfy council that such development complies with all health regulations. Be it resolved that approval be granted to an application received from Haltor Farms for a temporary commercial use permit to operate a food truck on parcel number 1011782, located at 14 Kinlock Road within the Mason Road Commercial Zone, subject to the following conditions. A, the development shall not result in any traffic hazard. B, the development shall not interfere with the parking requirements of permanent users of the lot on which the development will be located. C, the development shall not create a public nuisance. D, the temporary permit shall not exceed a 20-week period. E, the applicant shall provide a letter of approval from the property owner of the lot on which the temporary development will be situated. F, where required, the applicant shall satisfy council that such development complies with all health regulations. G, that the food truck shall be removed from the property once the temporary commercial permit has expired. This resolution bears the recommendation of Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on October 6, 2022. So moved.
Second it?
Okay, discussion.
Okay, I finally get to ask my question, but I think the answer is under E. It appears that this vehicle is going to be parked on somebody's land, and therefore the owner of that land would be paying taxes, so we're covered off for fire and police protection. Would that be correct in saying? Under E, the applicant's letter of approval of property owner. I think he's parking on an existing business, and the existing business would be paying taxes for fire and police services. So I'm okay with this.
My understanding is that one of the other things at work here is the fact that staff are developing a proposed food truck bylaw, and this gives an opportunity to identify sort of like a trial balloon, or identify like a pilot. It identifies any issues that maybe need to be looked at as part of the new bylaw. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah, maybe to elaborate on that a little bit, I think as part of the resident survey that was done last year, there was a couple of questions that were asked. One of them was related to, I think two or three questions were related to food trucks. There was quite a strong support for food trucks within the community. So we've been tasked on our work plan to investigate the actual details of that, similar to how we did the home occupation bylaw. So that's something we will be working on after we deal with short-term rentals, which is what we're currently working on. So there will be a proposal that will probably be something. City of Charlottetown has what's called a street vendors bylaw. It's separate from your development bylaw. It has a lot of conditions in it about where you can operate food trucks, when you can operate food trucks, the number of them that are allowed within the community. City of Summerside, for instance, they did a little different. They dedicated an area, and they said this area is for food trucks, and people can go in and they can actually lease a piece of land and they can operate a food truck on it. Multiple food trucks can be on the same site. City of Charlottetown has designated parking spaces or sites throughout the city that you're allowed to operate them, and there's conditions that you have to adhere to. As far as the fees go, what typically happens, and again, this will all be brought forward as part of the bylaw and part of the public process, there's typically a annual operating fee that is essentially meant to offset what a commercial business would be paying for in commercial municipal taxes. So it levels the playing field a little bit for one commercial operator against another. One's permanent, one is temporary. So.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I would expect that if this truck does well, and I expect that it will, that there'll be a number of other businesses looking at moving their trucks in here, because it is unceded land for food trucks. There's none here. Will we contact the restaurants within Stratford and see what their opinion of food trucks is?
As part of the actual food truck bylaw or street vendors bylaw, yes, absolutely. We'll be consulting residents and business people within the town. Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes.
So is there a rush for us to do this tonight? This company is looking for 20 weeks?
20 weeks is the maximum that they're allowed to have.
And when's the start and end date?
They're looking for October for a start date. That's why the application's
October?
Yeah.
Through till May, right?
whatever 20 weeks takes them to. There's a detailed letter attached to the resolution that has all of their, kind of their business plan outlined. And they currently, you know, they've been operating this food truck this past summer in Mount Stewart. They've illustrated that they have another couple events that they're intending to use the food truck for this fall, which I believe are almost done now. And then they're looking for an area to set it up for the winter months until they take it to another, back to the original site, I think is what they're referring to for next summer. They're not, and you can read their proposal there. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I mean, this is a temporary permit that they're proposing at this point in time. If it is successful, they have indicated they may look at potentially creating a second food truck that could be operated somewhere within town in the future. But this existing application is for a temporary commercial use. It's the only provision we have in the bylaw to allow this type of use to be brought forward.
It's just like the one Cotton Park there, we had Fall Fest.
Different section of the bylaw.
Different, okay.
The one at Cotton Park was for an event.
Yeah.
It was for a special event, and it was being proposed by the actual community within our park. So there's a different section of the bylaw for that. This is a private person that's proposing to do this on an actual commercial property within the town.
I think too, what's different on this one too, like, it's really not a food truck, it's a steel container that will be dropped off. If you look at it there, it's a steel container.
Food truck, food trailer.
Yeah, same.
There's a lot, I
yeah.
think you'll find when you get into the street vendors bylaw, you might have a few different definitions, and there was some questions at planning board, you know, is there gonna be any type of design guidelines and stuff around that? I honestly don't know. For somebody who does enforcement bylaws on a regular basis, I question how you're going to do that, but again, we have to do research on that and find out, you know, if somebody renovates an RV and makes it into a food truck, is that gonna be allowed versus if somebody renovates a trailer or renovates a shipping container such as this, is one gonna be allowed versus the other? I don't know.
So Kevin, like, it looks like what's it sitting on there? Is it a trailer?
It's currently sitting on a trailer.
It's on the trailer, yeah. Can it not sit on the asphalt, or?
Can, but it changes how it's, if the National Building Code applies to it or not.
So-
The simple way to deal with it without another bylaw exempting it from the building bylaw is if it's a portable structure, then it's not considered a building, and the National Building Code does not apply to it. They would like to actually put it on the ground and not have any of these raised decks around it. They'd like to have better accessibility to it, and even think it would look better. But it does complicate their application quite significantly. They have to get architects and engineers involved to sign off on this, to actually state that it meets all the provisions of the building code. And there's a reason why it's sitting on a trailer in the location that it currently is, and that's because it exempts it from the building, from the Provincial Building Codes Act.
So we're insisting that it's on a mobile trailer then, not up in blocks?
It has to be portable.
I don't.
It has to be portable.
It has to be portable.
So in his letter,
It's on a trailer.
in his letter, in his proposal, he's mentioning that he'd prefer blocks. So I'm just, you've got that covered, that you're not going to allow that.
In emails that, you know, he was told if it's going to be sitting on the ground, then it is going to be treated like a building, and the building code applies. And he
Right.
said, as much as he'd like to do that, that's going to be too complicated of a process. For this temporary permit, if he was doing something that was going to be more permanent, then I think they'd be open to it. But again, there might be exemptions that come from a future vendor's bylaw that may exempt something like that from this. I'm not sure.
He's also mentioning the electrical and water connections. Do you know if that's been rectified, who he's going to hook up to?
Washrooms.
I don't know that.
Okay, but we'll know that before we give him his permit. Like he mentions that he was going to hook up to the ice cream shop or something, just as long as that's been.
He's changed sites since he came for the original application. I think in his original proposal, he was proposing the What's the Scoop site, and now he's over on the Kinloch Crossing site.
So is Home Hardware backing him on this? Like, is that who's going to be providing, I wonder, the electrical and water connections?
The property is leased to well, it's not Vanco, but it's the
APM?
Same.
Does APM own the property?
I don't
No, okay.
Home Hardware Corporate owns the property.
Okay.
It's leased to, I can't remember the name of that.
So
Okay.
Kevin, if I could, this complies with the health and safety requirements and their zoning and development bylaw?
It is allowed based on it being a temporary commercial use.
Okay,
with-
I guess
with-
this-
With the conditions that are attached to the recommendation.
Okay. Does council have the discretion, I guess, to, or the grounds if we choose to not to proceed with this? Do we have,
Absolutely.
we do?
Yes.
So we can go either way on it?
Yep.
Okay.
And in that same vein of thought, if something happens that we're not liking in, say, 3 weeks' time, that we can pull our permit?
It would have to be something that would be outside of the conditions that you've given approval for.
Or he's gone against it, the conditions.
But-
And did we check with Mount Stewart to see if they were happy with,
I guess not, he's coming our way.
so we see the health certificates and that type of thing before?
It's required, we're required, the applicant shall satisfy council that such development complies with all health regulations.
Okay. How about
They're
insurance?
required to be.
Is that, okay.
It seemed to me that they haven't really run, like, this is kind of like a burger, like, these guys have ties to, like, the beef industry, cattle beef, right? So, and it sounds like it's a burger spot, but I think they've operated as like a beach chair rental something. So, this might be new, right? The beef burger food service side, no? They
they've
have done
always
it?
Yeah, they.
Okay.
Haltor Farms is
Okay.
the parent company.
Yeah.
And this was
Yeah.
created as a business opportunity to promote their products.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where they had it located, they actually did do beach chair rentals
Oh,
on the beach.
okay,
and they
okay,
deliver
okay.
food from this to the actual beach chair.
Okay.
I think this is a little different. This is more of a temporary use
Yeah.
that is going to fill in an off-season thing for them. I think they fully intend to use this. I don't know if it's going to be in the same location, but I think the beach chair thing is absolutely still going to be a.
What, yeah.
The one thing I,
Next year.
the one thing I look at it as is, like, I get our hesitation, but the one thing I look at it as is, because we are writing our food truck bylaw, it
Right.
kind of gives us a bit of experience. It gives us a temporary permit scenario where we might learn from it, right? And we might be to apply those learnings to our food truck bylaw, which we're developing almost the same time. So that's one thing, an opportunity I see in this. But the one thing is with, we could potentially have another business starting up in Finley's, and I don't know what the timelines are in that. It would
right.
seem a little bit unfair to have a food truck set up right beside them when they're trying to make a go of it. That would be the only negative I see, because
We haven't,
potentially you have I mean, it's two different experiences, but we are potentially putting a burger food truck right next to a restaurant that's just been bought by new owners. So that's the only negative I see. Like, I think in Charlottetown, you can only put a food truck down within a certain distance of a similarly operating restaurant.
I don't know.
I think that there is something there.
I know in the historical area, there's designated parking spots that
Yeah.
can be used for food trucks. And they are somewhat scattered throughout the town, but
Yeah.
some of them are literally outside other,
we have no controls.
other restaurants.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was something there, but, yeah, so that I see positive, and I see a little bit of negative just with, that new company that might be trying to make a go of it at Finley's this winter, and we're putting a food truck right next to them, but I think it gives us experience too, and it's temporary, and
But-
lots of potential for learning.
But we don't have a bylaw. We're initiating
No,
this.
but,
The new business at Finley's is a new business open, but we don't have a bylaw, and we're opening this up. And Finley's are paying commercial taxes and so on. I'm there for years, and bought by the other group. And then all of a sudden, there's no bylaw in place, and this is happening for 20 weeks. Our business community's not even talking about, they're talking about it. Like we haven't, it's almost like the other bylaw before, right? I'm all for food trucks, but let's control them, let's have them in one area and so on. And it has conditions. I mean, the bathroom here, was what, porta potties?
They're probably not required
Well,
to
it'd
have.
just
They're
be
not
like
required-
a
they're not
pick up
required
and
to have
go,
No?
right?
Yeah.
Like I picture just pulling in, grabbing a couple of burgers and moving on, right? It's
Yeah.
more of a takeout scenario. But
Will they be selling raw meat as well, Kevin?
Did we have to be inspected?
I don't know.
Okay. I believe they were in the Mount Stewart location, so,
I don't know if it's in the letter, I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure. It mentions Finley's closing down sort of thing, and so, yeah. And he mentions that he was speaking to community residents. That just kind of word of mouth sort of thing, or you didn't see anything from any of our residents, did you?
No.
Okay.
If you don't own a business, if you own a business, you'd be complaining.
Well, I think one thing I do want to bring up is we did do a survey of the residents last year, and there was very strong support for food trucks, and we are proposing to write a food truck bylaw or a street vendors bylaw for that purpose. So if you feel that, you know, the resident survey is not correct and you don't want to do that, that's completely within your authority, but that was the direction we were given as part of our work plan for this year, so
Yeah.
I don't find this that out of line from that.
Any idea when the food truck bylaw will be ready?
Before the end of March is the best I can tell you. Before next summer, we have a big one in front of us, which is short-term rentals, which is going to take some time, I think.
Yeah. I think, you know, what I'm hearing is, I think it was fairly successful there in Mount Stewart. I just want to make sure that we've covered our bases as best we can.
We don't research business and how they work in other areas when they propose to operate within our community, like, you know, if they're permitted use, or if there's a section within the bylaw, that's what we're going forward.
Yeah. So we're going with the temporary use is what we're
It's the
hanging our
only-
hat on.
It's the
So if
only
an-
provision we have.
Yeah.
It's the only
Is-
provision we have to do it.
Is there hours of service, Kevin, restricted hours?
I didn't see anything listed in their application, but,
So,
we
Are
can,
we-
we can,
we don't have restrictions on the hours of any of our other businesses within the community either.
But this is temporary, like it's,
Well, you
I
can, you
think-
can add them if you choose.
yeah, I think it'd be hard to add them if we're not imposing them on other businesses, but I think we're gonna probably learn more from this that will benefit our future bylaw, then I think, you know, I think we could take this as a pilot.
Yeah,
Right.
I think in
It's
the,
temporary and,
yeah. And Jill, in our discussion, that was what we saw as one of the benefits of doing this, was the fact that it is temporary. It's happening when we're developing the bylaw, so there's good and bad with everything, but that was a point that was raised with the committee, and there was a consensus within the committee that was an important point, that and the owners are responsible business people that are from Stratford, and I mean, that's important as well. So they have a track record, the owners do, of operating responsibly, and they're both businessmen from the community who have a history with businesses that have been successful. And so there's good and bad with everything, but I know that, speaking for the committee, we viewed this as favorable in consideration to all good and bad. But to hit on Jill's point, that was a big one, was here's an opportunity to have a pilot project or a test run, or whatever you want to
and
call it.
it kind of is a good time, you know, Nimrod's did just shut down. Finley's is getting up and running, and quite honestly, we're a town of 10,000 people, so, you know, or 11,000 people, so, you know, to introduce one food truck for 20 weeks isn't going to be devastating, I don't think, to anybody, but,
it's
but
temporary.
I'm not in the restaurant business, so we can't use that, but I see it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Sinnott and his crew that bought Finley's are good, responsible business people who you know, when it comes to competition in the industry, they welcome it. I know Jeff. I know how he does business. He does a great job.
Yep.
Whatever he turns Finley's into will be a facility that will do well, I'm sure.
And all these bylaws we're looking at here tonight, your tourism levy, your home occupation, everything else, sometimes you need enforcement, and I know it's going to be stress on our staff unless we hire a bylaw officer like the city of Charlottetown has and Summerside. So all these things popping up with this way the town is growing into a city from 11,000 to 15, I mean, are we going to put the stress on our staff to enforce bylaws?
We have a bylaw.
Officer.
Who?
We do have a bylaw enforcement officer, but she only works 12 hours a week, but we could, I think Kevin or Jeremy, we could increase that if need be.
I never saw a bylaw ticket. I was here 4 years.
But these are pretty small pieces.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I just don't want to put the strain on.
But I think you're right, forward-looking, yeah.
Safety and on the staff and the strain and everything else, so just down the road when we're growing, that's all.
Okay, anybody else, any other comments before we vote?
Just one other
So he
comment.
can,
Go ahead.
just tell him he can 24/7, he can open
Well,
24/7?
that's my point, yeah. I wonder,
3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, he can open?
do you think?
Like it would be a good business decision.
You know, let them know the hours that we'd like them to operate as part of the condition?
It's up to council if they want to impose additional
Well-
conditions.
What are Domino's hours of operation, do you know?
No.
I think they're open till around 2 or something like that.
They're not going to be able to find people to work.
The planning board, or planning heritage committee did ask one condition to be added, and that is condition G, that the food truck shall be removed from the property once, sorry for the typo, once the temporary commercial permit has expired. They didn't want the 20 weeks to expire and then
Oh, yeah.
the trailer be left on the
That's a good
premises.
point.
Even if it
Yeah.
wasn't to be occupied, so that was one condition they did ask, that it did be
Yeah.
removed from the property once the temporary commercial permit expires.
Pardon? Domino's does, okay, yeah.
Well, there's
I
no.
mean, you're in a commercial zone, right? You're in a commercial zone. Like if you're imposing hours on them, you have, like, you know, you're in a commercial zone, the businesses run as they see best fit for their business, like.
That is a good point, though. Maybe it's something we could look at as hours of operation for the commercial zone as part of our, if we're doing the official plan or the bylaws in the future. That's something that could be looked at.
Is there an apartment building close by? No?
No,
Noise bylaw?
there's.
I don't think so.
But you're in a
discount.
commercial zone, Steve, like,
Yeah, we're not dealing with,
Yeah.
we're not in Charlottetown where there's nightlife and everybody's exiting the bars and going to this
Yeah.
at 2 in the morning. I mean, they're responsible business people. There's nobody around after 9 PM. I'm sure that they're not going to be looking to keep open.
There's all different ranges of hours of what we have here. McDonald's is open 24 hours. Domino's is open to 12. Sobeys
Yeah.
is open late sometimes. You're in a commercial district. I mean, if
Yeah.
you impose hours, you're going down a whole
yeah,
different road.
I think
Yeah.
that would be.
I think it's
Yeah.
difficult. I don't imagine this is going to be open much past 10 o'clock at night. I think it's a good opportunity for us to see
Yeah.
what a food truck would look like in our community. I think it's a good
Let's vote on it.
learning opportunity, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, if you look at the other food trucks in other
Well,
communities.
let's make the hours here tonight.
No, I
No,
don't
you
think
can't do that.
We can't do that?
Well, you can.
Okay.
I'm just, I don't think it'd be wise,
Why?
because if you do that, then you're gonna have to impose hours for everyone in the town, and that's not a business savvy decision to do,
This is,
right? Like,
this is a temporary license.
welcome to Stratford.
It's temporary.
We-
This is new
We tell you
business.
what hours you're able to operate your business, like, you can't do that.
We have
Okay,
to,
Or-
we should have some
I wouldn't
controls. We should have some
recommend it.
controls, Councillor Burge.
We need to make a decision on this, so, I mean, we could talk about this for quite a bit longer, and the night is marching on, so, any last points, briefly, before we vote? Anything else you want to say before we vote?
No, I was just looking at the hours, maybe some restriction on the hours. We're going to maybe, we haven't discussed, we haven't voted on it yet, but if we give this gentleman, couple here, permission, why not look at some, as temporary, why not look at restricted hours?
Do you want to propose a motion to restrict the hours?
Did these men make a presentation to council, obviously not to council, but to the planning committee? because all our questions could be answered sort of thing. He may just be planning to open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or something like that, right, which would be reasonable. So any chance of him presenting to, presenting to the committee of the whole, and then we could bring it forward to next meeting? He really wants to get going in October, but he's putting the rush on us sort of thing. If there's any rush, is there a rush other than wanting to open?
They're asking to open in October.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, if your stumbling block is hours, it's just not, we rely on responsible businesses. They're not going to open outside of when their market is available to them. It doesn't
No.
make sense. Like,
No.
it's, we don't have
Especially
to
in a
tell them
labor
when
shortage.
to close. They'll know when to close when there's no people there.
Yeah.
You know, 9, 10 o'clock, arguably. But
I understand that. I was just going to give them comfortable, like 12 o'clock, midnight, comfortable hours with their business people that understand that. But anyways, I'm hearing where you're coming from too.
I mean, it's like, what, the school, they close at what, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock? I mean, no one wants an ice cream stand, so. And there's no businesses here, no nightclubs, or.
no,
No.
there's
They're
nothing.
not
Okay.
gonna stay open because someone wants a burger,
Okay, I think we.
But we talked about McDonald's there earlier. I mean, their drive-through was packed at midnight, and it's packed from midnight to 4 a.m. in the morning, if you ever drove across the bridge at that time. I'm just saying, there's another avenue, an outlet, if this place is open, for people come across.
Well, it's in a commercial zone, and there's lots of
Yeah.
parking. and
I don't think
no
it's going to
residents.
disturb anybody in that area, like, there's no buildings.
Yeah, I know.
There's no residential.
You see where I'm
zone
coming
right around
from,
there.
but I'm saying, that's, I don't,
Yeah,
I'm
it does
just-
present, you're right, it does provide another opportunity. So I guess, is there any other points you want to make?
No, I'm okay.
Any other points? Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good to go ahead and vote.
You okay for the vote?
okay for the
Okay,
vote?
I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
Good discussion.
Did everyone vote on that? I didn't hear, was there any abstentions?
I
Aye.
voted
I
for it.
voted.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
We're
sorry, I
okay.
didn't see your hand there, Counselor Smith, sorry. Okay, motion carried. All right, infrastructure, oh, thank you very much for your, oh, no, you have another resolution.
Come on.
You're earning your money tonight.
Well, I gotta get Henry piano lessons.
Piano lessons.
Your deputy chair can take over if you have to go.
No, I already worked out an
Oh, okay,
alternative plan.
good, okay.
Let's see here. Here it is. The Town of Stratford Resolution, PH 036-2022- the Gray Group, the Crossroads Urban Core Area Plan call for public meeting. Whereas an application has been received from the Gray Group, Concord Properties, which outlines the Crossroads Urban Core Plan containing a number of proposed rezonings and bylaw amendments designed by Fathom Studios for all the land within the core area of Stratford owned by the Gray Group. And whereas this plan was originally presented to Planning Board and Council via a Zoom meeting held on June 3rd, 2020, whereas since the original presentation, there have been numerous meetings with the Gray Group and Fathom Studios resulting in some revisions being incorporated into the proposal. Be it resolved that a public meeting be scheduled on November 23rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. to solicit input from the Gray Group, Concord Properties, which the Crossroads Urban Core Plan containing a number of proposed rezonings and bylaw amendments designed by Fathom Studios for all the land within the core area of Stratford owned by the Gray Group. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on October 6, 2022. So moved.
Second it?
Okay, just before we go into discussion, I just want to make sure that the resolution is correct, that Are we soliciting input from the Gray Group, or are we soliciting input from residents?
Well, it's the application received from the Gray Group outlining.
So that's
their new
correct, is it,
plan.
Kevin?
Sorry, no, you are correct, Your Worship.
There's a line
It
missing?
should- Yeah, it should be to solicit input from residents on the proposal received from the Gray Group, the Crossroads Report Plan. Yes, there is a,
Okay,
from
so
residents.
with that correction, is it okay, the motion still, you still want to move that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, do you want to move the corrected, or second the corrected motion, Deputy Mayor? Yes. Okay. Okay, any discussion?
Your worship, I will have to leave here in about 10 minutes. I have another appointment. However, I have been going door to door. This will be well attended by the people of Stratford. Let's make sure there's a big enough room, because there's a lot of people going to be attending this meeting. So, but I am in full agreement with this.
Okay, good point. Okay, any other discussion?
So this is going to include all of the area that's currently owned by the Gray Group? All their zoning requirements, or changes, rather?
Yes, all of their land, yes.
All of
Within the core of Stratford.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing from residents, too, that they would certainly like to make sure that the meeting is not short, right? That they're not, that they have plenty of opportunity to state their, have the discussions on this and state their opinions. So it's at 7, there's no real cutoff time? Who's running this?
We could have an open-ended, I think.
Yeah.
It's always open-ended.
It's always open-ended. I
well,
think
no.
other times we've
Yeah.
had multiple
Right. And I
things
got,
that we had to tend to, so those were,
and I've heard criticism on that, right? That the first group, and I know that
Yeah.
COVID played a role in that sort
oh
of thing,
yeah,
right?
there was lots of
50 people out, 50 people in.
issues,
That,
yeah.
So hopefully that won't raise its head on November 23rd.
With this just being the only single item, it would be
Yeah,
open-ended.
but it's big, right?
Yeah, we have the
Uh,
gym.
It is the only item that.
You put
would be
people in the
slated
gym.
for that evening.
We can use the gym if it gets that big.
Yeah. Do we have a place for it?
We didn't anticipate that we would do it any place different than this room. We would have the battery point room, the Crossroads room available as well. We've never had a public meeting larger than this room in my time being here, but
I tell you, there's a big
There's a
interest in Ward 1.
Huge interest.
Is this room bigger than the emergency services room that we had the other meetings in?
I think the emergency service room would be a little bit bigger. You might have less parking.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Less parking, and I don't know if the sound is as good.
Well, I mean, this room has all of the equipment in it to do
Right.
virtual as well.
Right.
So if you have hard of hearing, yeah.
That's what
When's
these.
this gonna happen, Gabe?
So, Kevin, could we solicit names to get people to sign up on the sheet, just get a thought about how many people are going to attend? Like, I think there's going to be if we wait till the night
People
of.
don't sign up, are you saying they can't attend?
No, I just like, if there's 50 people sign up, we should just move to the gym, and then
Well,
get
we
the
can
rest
get
of them in
We can
there.
get 100 people in this room if we don't have to.
Okay,
we don't have to
I'm
social
just thinking there's
distance,
going to be a
right?
big turnout for this one.
Oh, well,
That's
I
what
think
you want.
that's,
You
I
want
think that's
big
great. That's what they're meant for, right?
That's what you want, big turnouts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It'd
we're-
be a hybrid meeting. It would
Yeah.
be in person as well as.
Zoom,
As
yeah.
well as
Yeah.
virtual.
Okay, any other comments or questions about the public meeting? Anybody have any points they'd like to make with regard to for or against it?
I just think this is going to be a key community conversation and consultation. So, yeah, I'm excited to see, where it goes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll call for the vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion carried. You're off the hook, Councilor McDougall. Thanks a lot.
Wow,
Congratulations.
thanks.
Okay, I'll call on Deputy Mayor Clow to give his infrastructure report.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report's in the package. If there's anything you want to ask me, ask me.
Yeah, I'll be quick, yeah.
I'm sure everybody's ready. Is there any questions? Okay, so moved. That's my report, Your Worship. 7 o'clock.
Thank you for your report. Committee of the Whole, anything from Committee of the Whole to be reported on? No? Okay. Sustainability, the minutes are there, I guess.
Minutes are there, if anyone has any questions. Have at her.
Thank you for your report. Okay, accountability and engagement, we don't have any report on that one. Human resources, anything there?
Nothing in human resources.
Any inquiries by members of council at this point?
No.
I'd like to make a little statement, if I could. 1 minute? May I
Yeah,
have 1
go
minute?
ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. So everyone spoke about Fiona, and I just wanted to have my 2 cents worth. So regarding Fiona, I would also like to thank all staff and volunteers for their untiring work for the week and a half. We have mentioned the Stratford Youth Centre. I heard many comments about how wonderful these youth were. They were making coffee pot after coffee pot, helping people charging their devices, as well as serving hot meals to those in attendance. I also want to thank the staff of the PEI school food program who were here making those delicious hot meals daily while school was cancelled that week. I also want to explain my absence at the last council meeting. I think it was my first council meeting that I've missed in 8 years. So as a newly elected board member of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, I was attending my first board meeting in Sherwood Park, Alberta, and I'll have a report at the next Committee of the Whole. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Okay, any other inquiries by members of council or statements? Other committees, Stratford Seniors Complex, Deputy Mayor Claude?
The report's in your package. If there's any questions,
Okay.
may I try to answer them, or Kim?
Anything new on, thank you for your report. Anything new on the Community Campus Implementation Committee?
No, nothing from the committee, but things are still ticking along there.
Okay, great, thank you.
The Stratford Senior Complex, how did they make out when the power went out?
Did it-
Good?
Yes?
Do you have a generator there? Okay.
Thanks, Kevin. Oh, bye, Kevin.
Okay, any appointments to committees? I guess not at this point, eh?
No.
Jeremy, no appointments to committees, okay. No proclamations, any other business anyone would like to bring to the floor? If not, call for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We're moved.